Your wait time is 3 hours and 30 minutes.
It's okay, Dad. It's just not your day.
I know.
No, I mean it's not your watering day.
Oh, right.
Look!
Sometimes it's just not your day. Hillsborough County limits lawn and landscape watering to specific days in order to preserve year-round conservation. To find out your watering days, just visit hcflgov.net/water restrictions and enter your address.
Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Representing District 1, Harry Cohen. Representing District 2, Ken Hagan. Representing District 3, Gwen Myers. Representing District 4, Christine Miller. Representing District 5, Donna Cameron Cepeda. Representing District 6, Chris Bowles. Representing District 7, Joshua Wostel. The County Administrator is Bonnie Wise. The County Attorney is Christine Beck. Time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for citizens to speak on any issue. So we have time for everyone. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Today's meeting is brought to you with closed captioning by Hillsborough Television.
Good morning and welcome to the December 17, 2025 regularly scheduled board meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Gwen Myers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, I come to you again just to say thank you. Thank you for this year and all that Hillsborough County government has accomplished. Father, we know the reason for this season. I ask that you will continue to bless this board, our leadership, our county administrator, and all our employees and what we have done this year. And as you give us happiness, peace, love, and joy during this holiday season, we will not forget you and what you have allowed us to do. In your holy name, I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. This morning we have two very special accommodations, and the first one will be presented by Commissioner Bowles.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us today. Our first and last meeting of December and of the year. I'd like to ask Mr. Andrew Emerton and Dr. Charles Sand to please join me up here at the podium, please. And if you have anybody else you'd like to bring up, that's fine. That's good. Okay. Why don't you come around this side? Yeah. Good morning. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. We appreciate you being here. I'm excited to present this special recognition to an amazing young man who transformed a near-fatal tragedy into a success story that serves as a vital service to our community. Mr. Emerton here, at the age of 26, experienced sudden cardiac arrest with no warning at all. But thanks to the quick thinking of his friend to use CPR and the medical team at the University of Florida Health Shands Hospital, Mr. Emerton survived, and he's here with us today. This life-changing event led him to create Breathe Florida, a nonprofit organization. So far, the organization's accomplishments in our community have been nothing truly short of remarkable. Further illustrating Mr. Emerton's dedication to service, it is an honor to present him with this accommodation for his hard work and efforts. And if you give me a moment, I'll read what the accommodation says. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners applauds Andrew Emerton for his dedication to educating the community on the importance of cardiopulmonary resuscitation, also known as CPR, raising much needed awareness on its life-saving techniques. A Georgia native, Mr. Emerton is proud to call Hillsborough County his home. After graduating from Brandon High School, where he served as a battalion commander in the JROTC program, during his senior year, he earned his bachelor's degree in computer engineering in 2020. His graduation led to a promising career in the technology field. And October 2024, Mr. Emerton suffered a cardiac arrest. He survived because of the vital CPR techniques used at the scene. This life-changing event led to him to create Breathe Florida, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping high school students earn an official 2-year CPR certification through the AHA at no cost to the student. Since its founding, the organization has raised over $10,000 to sponsor CPR certification for students at Brandon High School, focusing first on the JROTC, program, and to date, 63 cadets have earned their CPR certifications, and the organization is now expanding this opportunity to athletic teams, student organizations, and students who may benefit from positive community building and skill-based empowerment. These amazing results are all due to his unwavering commitment and selfless generosity. The Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby commend Andrew Emerton for his accomplishments in promoting CPR to the community and wishes him success for his many years to come, executed this 17th day of December, 2025. Would you like to have something to say? Absolutely. Thank you.
Good morning. Hope you're all having a great day as well as a great life. It's truly honored to be here today. I really appreciate Commissioner Bowles, the other county commissioners, as well as Dr. Charlie Sands for seeing the value in highlighting a story like this. Last year in October, well, first and foremost, I would give all glory to God for everything happening here. Without God's grace and God's will working in my life, there's just absolutely no way any of this would be happening. So first and foremost, I would give all glory to God. Last year in October, I was visiting friends up in Gainesville when I went into a sudden cardiac arrest. One of my friends called 911 immediately, and the other friend immediately began life-saving CPR, where she had to do CPR for about 10 minutes straight until emergency services could arrive, where then I was brought to Shands Hospital and later resuscitated. By the quick actions of my friends, the incredible work of the EMS teams, as well as folks down at the hospital, and the grace of God in the whole situation, I live and stand before you all today. As I'm sure you guys can imagine, over this last year, I've tried to thank, praise, and glorify my two incredible friends so many times over this last year, and every single time they would just stop me and say, nope, that was all God. We were just there. And I remember I would even argue with them. I would say, like, no, like, listen, like, you gave me CPR. Comfort, you call 911, and they would just say, nope, that was all God. We were just there. And eventually I would agree and say, like, yeah, you know, that makes sense. But at the back of my mind, a very human part of me would still look to glorify the human part of them. And I'm sure part of that will always be there within me. But it really is like a moment like now, receiving recognition for something like this, where I just can't help but think, it's not me, it's God. I'm just here bearing witness, and I'm just so grateful and humbled to have the opportunity to steward this vision and this idea forward. The idea didn't even come from me; it came from God. I knew I had a purpose around the corner, but I didn't know what it was. Out loud, I said, God, if you think I'm ready, so do I. The idea for Breathe Florida came to me immediately after, a nonprofit to sponsor high school students to get CPR certified at no cost to them, but a mission of empowering young people in our communities to have the knowledge and confidence to act in a time of crisis and potentially save more lives over time. It was in that moment, and especially now, I feel convicted that this is what I was brought back to do. So if getting Breathe Florida to even half of its full potential is the last thing I do, then that is what I'll do. Of course, the goal is to spread this opportunity across the state of Florida, but our focus and our goal right now is to focus here in Hillsborough County, the place I call home. We'll start here, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Absolutely amazing. Just the fact that you're here to tell your story. It is wonderful. And just for a moment, I'd like to bring Dr. Sand, who leads our EMPC and who has been very active in our community, dealt with AEDs in the past, getting those out in our community. And he would like to have a few short words. We got a lot of people today, but a few short words. Dr. Sand likes to talk, and he's a great speaker. But that being said, and give a very short demonstration on CPR.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, you know it'll be a challenge. Maybe there's a reason I have been invited back for 10 or 15 years.
We love you, Doug.
But as you heard, I chair EMPC since 2014. I'm past president of American Heart Association, retired ER doc, although I still do EMS things. Thank you, Commissioner Bowles and other esteemed members, the Board of County Commission, and Andrew, privileged to be here. I'm going to show you how to save a life. Anyone can save a life with CPR. You see a great example here. Young kids can learn it, elderly can learn it, any age can learn it. Everybody in this room, everyone watching virtually can learn it. Sudden cardiac arrest can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter what your status, your socioeconomic status, your race, religion, it kills everybody. It doesn't select people. So you need to learn CPR. If you went into CPR right now, into cardiac arrest right now, God forbid, every minute goes by, you lose 10%. 1 in 10 every minute you lose. So you need to start CPR as quickly as possible. Anyone can save a life. Call 911, start CPR, call for a local AED. We have one right in the room, just so you know, so we're in good shape. A defibrillator shock brings back rhythms back to life. So why not give people the chance to learn CPR? Doing something is better than doing nothing. So what you do for CPR, we'll just give you a little demonstration. First of all, you need to make sure they're actually unresponsive. Give them a little tap, don't shake them too hard. If they don't respond, they're not breathing, just go right into it. And these kits are great. You can buy a kit for your family for the vacations, teach everybody CPR, save a life of all your family. So in just a couple minutes. So it'll tell you the rate to go. So it's every half second you do CPR, 1 and 2 and 3. You like the Bee Gees? Staying alive. I think everybody knows that. So whatever you want to do to remember that, do that rate. So push 2 inches, 120 a minute, allow full recoil. There's lots more to teach you, but they're not giving me much time because we have too many speakers here. The other thing I like to say, so you can get these kits or whatever, you can look on YouTube. What better place, what better time than when you're with your family during the holidays? Teach everybody CPR. Most cardiac arrests occur in the home. More occur during holidays for whatever reason. Maybe it's a stressful event, I don't know. But it's a good idea to teach everybody CPR. The last thing I'd like to say, for the last time I have, just going ad lib now, but I can do it ad lib, is the AEDs. These defibrillators are, here's a real one, here's a trainer. They're literally very simple to use. They will give you voice prompts. They'll tell you what to do. It will.
Tear open package and remove pads.
So it'll go step by step. The pads show you where to put it. They're very easy. Back between 2000 and 2010, we had a subcommittee on EMPC where our goal was to put 1,000 AEDs in this community. You got to shut it up, too. You got to shut it. So we want to put 1,000 AEDs in the community. We did that with our subcommittee. We first started with this building, every other floor. Now they're on every building. There's 2 on this floor for some reason. You guys are in good shape. There's one right there, a real AED that you can utilize. And I have to give mention to our legal counsel during that time. You stole her from us. Christine Beck was our legal counsel. So thank you, Christine, for all you've done for our community and saving lives. You contributed too. So that's it in a nutshell. They're not giving any more time. I already feel the hook being pulled. Thank you, everybody. Learn CPR. Teach your family. No better way. The life you save may be your family or yourself. Thank you, Commissioner Bowles, Florida County Commission, all the Hillsborough County staff for allowing Andrew and I to do this. Thank you.
Maybe next, we'll figure out a way to get you back up here next year. How's that? We'll figure out a way.
If they'll allow.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But thank you so much. You good? You want to bring anybody up for a picture? No? It's up to you. No? Okay. I just want to get to the day for a picture.
You want me? Yeah. You're part of this. Good to see everybody.
It's okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowles. And now Commissioner Miller will present our next commendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Would Chief Mike Burdell please join me up here at the podium? He's with the Sun City Center Emergency Squad. where my plaque went. Good morning. Well, welcome, Chief, and to all of the members of the Sun City Center Emergency Squad. We are truly honored to have you here today. This recognition is for a remarkable group of individuals whose compassion and commitment define what it means to serve. Every year, the Sun City Center Emergency Squad responds to nearly 4,000 ambulance calls, all staffed by volunteers who dedicate their time, skill, and their hearts to helping their neighbors. And they do it entirely free of charge. They are the only organization of their kind in Florida, and their selfless service not only saves lives, but also saves Hillsborough County taxpayers an estimated $4.5 million each year. That's an incredible gift to this county. This year, the squad is celebrating 60 years of service to our community, and they've done so in an extraordinary fashion, being named the 2025 Volunteer EMS Service of the Year by EMS World and the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians. I think that deserves like a huge round of applause. This is such an important honor. We are welcome to have Representative Alvarez and his staff here with us today. We also have representatives from the U.S. Congressman Buchanan's office, State Rep Michael Owen's office, joining us to celebrate this tremendous accomplishment. Their presence underscores how deeply valued this organization is, not only here in Hillsborough County, but across our region and state. Chief Bardell, to you and your more than 370 volunteers, we thank you from the bottom of our heart. Your work exemplifies the very best of neighbors helping neighbors. You remind us that when people come together with compassion and purpose, there is no limit to what a community can accomplish. It is my privilege on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners to present this commendation to the Sun City Center Emergency Squad for 60 years of exceptional service and for this well-deserved national recognition. So I'm going to read what the commendation says, and then I'm going to let Commissioner Bowles speak as well, because he has served on this side. And while this is in my district, and I am so humble and grateful that he is the one that has taught me how much value this means in our community, and I want to be able to give him a few minutes to speak as well. So it reads, the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners proudly congratulates the Sun City Center Emergency Squad for receiving the EMS World National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians 2025 Volunteer EMS Service of the Year Award, a national recognition of its unwavering dedication and outstanding volunteer service to the community. Founded in 1964, the Sun City Center Emergency Squad remains a pillar of compassion and commitment, and proudly standing as one of Florida's last remaining all-volunteer, all-free basic life support ambulance services, guided by the motto, neighbors helping neighbors. The squad's 370 volunteers responds to nearly 4,000 ambulance calls and 1,000 wheelchair van transports each year, filling vital gaps in local emergency care and ensuring every resident receives help when it is needed most. Under the leadership of Chief Mike Bardell, the squad continues to expand its impact throughout the community, educating and preparedness programs, including disaster planning for homeowners, free CPR and blood pressure clinics, in collaboration with FirstNet, built with AT&T to strengthen first responders' communication. For 60 years, the Sun City Center Emergency Squad has exemplified volunteerism, innovation, and compassion, earning national honors such as the Point of Light Award from President George H.W. Bush in 1992. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners does hereby commend and congratulate the Sun City Center Emergency Squad on its 2025 Volunteer EMS Service of the Year Award and its 60th anniversary, recognizing its lasting service and extraordinary dedication to the residents of Hillsborough County, executed the 17th day of December, 2025.
I'll keep this very brief. As we just heard from Dr. Sand, and we have living proof from Mr. Andrew Emerton, minutes count when we're talking about life-saving issues, and having the Sun City Squad down there and available that fills in those gaps where, whether it's a BLS or even ALS in some particular cases, because you never know what the true emergency is. Having them be able to respond and be there, and that they're volunteering their services, beyond commendable. I've worked with them in the past. Over my 28 years, I've had the opportunity to work with Sun City, and love all the members down there. And I know they change over the years, but you've done an outstanding job, Chief, and keep that going. Don't stop.
Great job.
Yeah.
I'm up here receiving this award, but the truth is, the true heroes are the 370 volunteers that make everything I say every day come true for everyone, and they are the true heroes in the community. Our average age is over 70 years old, but just because we're retired doesn't mean we're done. People want to do something for that, and they feel like they have something to offer to this community, and I think by evidence to what we do, they are showing it day in and day out. And I'm very proud. I understood from Dr. Sands that I could speak for about 2 hours, but I understand that's a little less now. But I want to thank all the people that have supported this squad over the many years, and we're just so proud to be able to go out and serve our community. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask all of you all to come up and join us for the picture.
Doing you too. How's your daughter doing?
All great.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
What do we do here?
We're gonna go this way. Get the surface. Come on.
Just text me.
I'm good. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller and Bowles. Bonnie, you want to review the changes to the agenda?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. We have one item that has been removed from consent for discussion or questions by Commissioner Miller. It's item A5. This is to approve and execute a local housing funding agreement and a land use restriction agreement between the county and the Homes of Regency Cove for improvements to infrastructure connections and replacement to support 4,831 mobile homes, 16 apartments and common areas for 55-plus senior mobile home community. This is in support of urgent community needs resulting from the hurricanes. We have several items for time certain. The first one is item D1 at 10 o'clock. This is to conduct a public hearing to accept comments on the program year 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, known as the CAPER, detailing the use of funds received from HUD for Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership, and Emergency Solutions Grant Program. Item D2 at 10 o'clock is to hold a public hearing to consider the transfer of certain property rights within the Stacy R. White Preserve ELAP site to the Water Resources Department in support of the One Water South Wastewater Conveyance and Treatment Project. Item D3 at 10 o'clock is to hold a public hearing and approve by 2/3 vote the impact fee increase ordinance and the water wastewater rate resolution, which increases water and wastewater impact fees. Item B5 at 10:15 is to adopt a resolution supplementing prior resolutions, providing for the issuance of subordinate utility revenue notes Series 2025 and the principal amount of not to exceed $1.5 billion million in aggregate advances in order to finance all or a portion of the acquisition, construction, reconstruction, expansion, replacement, and re-equipping of various capital improvement projects to the county's utility system, specifically the One Water Campus project located in southern Hillsborough County. This is related to items B6 and B7. The next item is item B6, also at 10:15, to approve the third modification to the Progressive Design Build Agreement with Garney Companies for the One Water South Wastewater Conveyance and Treatment projects related to items B5 and B7, and then item B7 related to items B5 and B6, to approve the sixth modification to the agreement with Carollo Engineers, Inc. for additional and continued professional services associated with the South County One Water program. Item E1 at 10:30 is to receive a special appearance by Craig Richard, President and CEO of the Tampa Bay Economic Development Council, to present their activity report for 2025. Item B1 at 10:45 is to accept the Library Materials Management Report performed by the County Internal Auditor's Office. 11:45 is a recess for lunch. Those are the changes to the agenda.
Commissioner Wostel.
Mr. Chair, I had a slight amendment to our last regular meeting's minutes, 165 subsection E. If you'll recall, I pulled two items, A7 and A8, and the vote went as I expected, 6-1, but evidently another commissioner also voted no, and mine was recorded as a yes. Mr. Varnsdale did confirm that that was recorded by the pad, so I'd either need to make an amendment or re-vote on those two items. I pulled the item specifically to vote no and was the only one that opposed it.
Rick, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, because there is an electronic record, it would be probably better if we resend it and re-vote.
Okay, so
Make a motion to rescind that vote from November 5th and then re-vote on it however you want.
Okay, so do that prior.
You can do it anytime you want, now or at the end of the meeting, whatever you want.
Okay, well, why don't we vote on the changes now, and then we can come back and do that. Okay, so can we motion to approve the changes?
Move the changes.
Second.
Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on the changes to the agenda.
Motion carried, 7-1.
All right, then a motion by Commissioner Wostel to rescind. Was there a certain number or?
Items A7 and A8 of the previous regular agenda.
A7 and A8. Okay, motion to just rescind that vote. Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote. All right, so now we need a new motion to approve A7 and A8.
I'll move approval of A7 and A8.
Okay, motion Commissioner Cohen. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Second Commissioner Bowles. All right, please record your vote.
Motion carries 6-1. Commissioner Wostel voted no.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I now we're going to the public comment portion of the agenda. The board welcomes comments from citizens about any issue or concern. Your opinions are valued in terms of providing valuable input to board members. However, at the same time, it's requested when you speak to the board that your comments are not directed at staff or board members, but rather the issue. We've set aside 45 minutes for public comment this morning. The chair will call on speakers in the order in which the requests to speak have been made. Addressing the board, please state your name, speak clearly into the microphone. Each person will be given 3 minutes. I will tell you, we will not get to everyone this morning. We have 61 individuals that have signed up, so we'll go as far as we can and just be mindful of those that are behind you. First 3 speakers are Marie Gilmore, followed by Joyce Gonzalez, and then Dennis Hayes. Good morning.
Good morning. Do I start anytime? Do I start anytime? Okay. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Marie Gilmore, 25-year resident of Southeast Hillsborough County and editor of the Hometown Osprey Observer newspaper, publishing good news for 24 years in January. And this morning, I've already gotten 2 stories. I didn't even know I'd be working this morning, but 2 fantastic proclamations, so thank you for that. I'm here for the second time in 24 years to speak on behalf of the Mosley, because I was here last meeting, to speak on behalf of the Mosley Homestead, a valuable link to Hillsborough County's early history. Preserving it provides meaningful educational opportunities, supports heritage tourism, and ensures future generations can learn from our shared past. The Timberley Trust has shown a commitment to responsible preservation and public access, and with your support, this project will become a lasting community asset. I know you'll have a report today. I was very excited. Thank you to Commissioner Miller's office for sending it to me, and I'm thrilled to see the progress going forward on this project. Additionally, I'd like to take a moment to thank the board for its support of the second annual Parade of Lights in Brandon. Because of your support, this family-friendly event was a huge success for the second year, and it showcased what makes Brandon special: connection, volunteerism, and hometown pride. Thank you for investing in these community traditions that strengthen our neighborhoods and bring people together. During this parade, we supported 2 local charities, a literacy charity and Hope for Her. We had 2,800 people walking in this community parade, including 5 marching bands, which is my favorite thing to see at the holidays. We truly appreciate your time, leadership, and continued support of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilmore. Joyce Gonzalez, and followed by Dennis Hayes, and then Mark Proctor. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. First, I want to thank all the commissioners for considering this grant funding for the homes of Regency Cove. Regency Cove is an elder association. This grant gave the residents hope to be able to continue to live in their little piece of heaven in their retirement age. After Hurricane Helene and Milton hit this association, there was major damage done with the flooding, not only to the entire electric grid, but to their units. Most of them lost their vehicles. These hurricanes destroyed the entire electric grid to the entire park. The electric grid was well over 30 years old. A major part includes the 3 lift stations for this park. The electric meters were under salt water, which destroyed the electric underground wiring. They were without power for almost 2 months. We would get power back one section and then another one would go out. To this day, when it rains, units still lose their power. TECO, their contractors, and the electrician work day and night to keep this park safe and keep power back to the units. After ground temp wiring had been installed, and to this day, we are still having to install above ground temporary wiring. TECO president and many others came to the association very early after the hurricanes to meet and discuss partnering with Homes of Regency Cove and install all new wiring to the entire community. The association would be responsible for the pedestals, meter cans, breaker boxes to each unit. TECO, at their expense, would install all new underground wiring and conduit to each unit, pedestals, and new power poles to ensure secure power for the future. The only way to complete this project was to do a one-time special assessment. However, the board realized this would cause many unit owners to possibly lose their units or to have to choose what to pay. The cost of this one-time special assessment would have been per unit between the dollars of $10,000 to $15,000. This is a retirement community, and that was not feasible. When several affordable housing team members who had heard about this association was seriously damaged, they came to the park to investigate and review the association. They realized that this was a very bad situation. The association had to act quickly to get this project started, so the association moved forward. The priority was and still is to get the residents stable electric. In closing, I'd like to thank Brenda Tremaine and their entire team for working with Regency Cove to get the residents of Homes of Regency Cove to this point. As a property manager, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak in front of you.
Appreciate your comments. Dennis Hayes. Mr. Hayes here, followed by Mark Proctor, and then Lori Collins.
Good morning. There's going to be a bunch of us. So anyway, my name is Dennis Hayes, and I'm the president of the Homes of Regency Cove. First, I'd like to thank Brenda Vasilla and her crew at the Affordable Housing for countless hours they spent arranging for this loan. And secondly, I'd like to thank the commissioners for their consideration in this effect. As the association president, I saw and lived the firsthand destruction of Helene and Milton caused. Some sections of our park were without power for weeks. and summertime's bad. TECO and its subgrants were at Regency Cove for what seemed like months, putting temporary lines in place so people could survive. After everything dried out, we still had issues with losing electric power when it rained. When it rains, the salt water still reacts with the wiring. Look, the direct buried electric cables, no conduit, just cable, need to be replaced, and we're working to that effect after this. We have started the process of replacing the electric infrastructure to replace pedestals and electric lines to the units. This money would assist in accomplishing this project. Again, thank you for your consideration. And just because I didn't use my 3 minutes, does anyone have any questions I could answer possibly? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mark Proctor is up next, followed by Lori Collins.
Good morning. My name is Mark Proctor of 409 South Kings Avenue in Brandon, Florida. As chairman of the Timberley Trust, I want to emphasize that the thoughtful and deliberate approach that we have taken with the supervision of the Mosley Homestead. Our intent is centered on education, preservation, artistic expression, and a deep reverence for the natural world, which continues to guide every decision we've made. Our board has invested the time and diligence necessary to advance a plan worthy of this extraordinary place, including completing architectural and preservation studies, environmental assessments, long-range planning documents, and the expert evaluations required for responsible stewardship of a national registry property. We have prioritized doing things correctly rather than quickly, ensuring that all work aligns with the historic landscape, minimizes impacts, and respects the spirit of the Mosley legacy. As an example of the partnership is with our next-door neighbor, Portillo's, which now provides solutions to our longstanding concerns about visitor access, parking, and site impact. Through this partnership, now formalized as Portillo's Pathway to the Past, the Homestead has a strong community business ally dedicated to supporting heritage preservation and facilitating responsible public access through shared space for meetings, visitor orientation, bus access, and a new gated connection to the Homestead. We have also expanded our visibility and viability and outreach through a Hillsborough County Historic Preservation Grant, which has enabled the creation of an interactive web portal promoting virtual exploration of the Homestead. Our visibility has grown further through county tourism media efforts, including the Homestead being selected as a major filming location for a Lifetime Network movie, demonstrating both the cultural value and the aesthetic appeal of this unique historic environment. We have also launched a social media initiative and strengthened community engagement through donor-sponsored events such as our successful Labor Day Legacy Picnic. The Mosley Homestead recently was toured by the 2026 class of the Brandon Riverview Chamber of Commerce, and they have sent us this note showing their appreciation. The Mosley Homestead recently it has looked ahead and remains committed to expanding responsible, sustainable public access, both in person and through advanced virtual and educational technologies.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate
while safeguarding
it.
the property for decades to come.
Thank you very much, sir.
Conservation professionals. We've been highly active, as Mark just stated, in the community and through a new Hillsborough County grant that is allowing us to have greater public awareness through a web portal. Lots of grants and exciting special category grant that we'll be coming back with later in early 2026 for the match. We respectfully want to thank your staff for the time that they have invested with us and helping in their guidance to kind of work through this. The Portillo's piece of the puzzle was really important to this, as you'll see later in the staff report. Commissioners, the Mosley Homestead is ready and looking to the future. Our proposed Eco Center, creative studio, and interpretive trail, all professionally designed, which you will hear more of from the staff report today, represent a thoughtful, preservation-appropriate evolution of the original community center idea. These low-impact structures fulfill the same public service goals, education, engagement, community benefit, while being far more compatible with the property's historic landscape, environmental conditions, and preservation covenants. Our plans, as I said, are professional, preservation sound, mission-aligned, and deeply consistent with the original intent of the BP environmental mitigation funding, part of that funding that is designated for the homestead and is of current interest to this commission. That money linking natural and cultural history, ecological education, and heritage tourism, all in this one spot. We respectfully ask for your continued support and the time needed to finalize these present conceptual plans and studies becoming fulfilled. With your partnership,
we appreciate it.
This site will remain a jewel for the county.
Thank you very much. Next up is Denise Herndon, followed by Dave Smith.
Good morning, I'm Denise Herndon. I'm going to speak on A146, a reach-up for at-risk children. I don't know if these nonprofit is separate from what the Hillsborough County insurance pays, or if these people are in insurance, but we need to do something about making it mandatory in high schools to educate on CPR, because there's been little kids in elementary school that have saved people with CPR. I have this, could somebody please fix this to make this show so people can see this? And I'd like it to stay up there. This is concerning information about a false body cam and false reporting of this police report that's numbered. I was told because it was a general offense, it's closed. Well, is there a closing when the body cam is falsified? Because what it shows on that body cam is not what happened, because there was nobody in that gas station at Lakewood and 60 except myself selling Bucks t-shirts, and the guy that I was with left and was coming out after the gunshots happened. So he didn't see everything that had happened there. And I guess because nobody was hit, it's okay that a false sheriff's report and a false body cam is registered here. Chronister has a lot going on in his department, and there's, 4 captains that have issues and stuff that they terminated. Well, there's more than that, and I think people are being made scapegoats. Chronister is at the top. He needs to leave. You need to fire him. And the sad thing is there's a lot of good sheriff deputies, and it's a lot of good people are being accused of things that they're not happening. And I will never give up. I will never back down on this issue. I thought this was all about something else, but there's a lot of other things. I'm finding tentacles of a lot of things going on in this county, and you guys can do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next up is Dave Smith, followed by Margaret Converse and Carl Williams.
Hi, I don't think you should fund the sheriff's office any more money. They do a pretty lousy job of protecting consumers' civil rights. My wife was murdered in Hillsborough County, and I informed all of you commissioners about it, and you haven't done anything. There's a lot illegal with the BOCC. When it criminally covered up my wife's Hillsborough County murder, with BOCC paid Victor Chris, who illegally removed my wife's civil murder case without judicial approval from your Hillsborough County courthouse. BOCC's paid Brandon Wagner was told not to investigate this matter by one of his county commissioners. The BOCC is now as guilty as its paid courthouse accomplices who racketeered in covering up my wife's murder due to now being inputted with these facts. But will no doubt continue to turn a blind eye to Asian-perpetrated crimes. How much time do I have? Okay, your BOCC paid sheriff refused to investigate my wife's murder, keeping Jane Castor's local concert from being exposed for having initiated my wife's Hillsborough County murder. She's being sued. Jane Castor's concert illegally aided and abetted the Federal Reserve Bank in stopping me and my wife from suing the feds in 2022. By falsely imprisoning me in your Hillsborough County jail while keeping my wife on the streets of Hillsborough County until foreseeably killed. Your Hillsborough County courthouse issued a summons on Victor Chris, a defendant in a RICO lawsuit I filed this month, but your Hillsborough County deputies refused to perform process of service on him, stating it's politically incorrect to serve Victor Chris his summons because he's one of the gang. Proud BOCC paid deputies see themselves as criminals in a gang, and you proud commissioners are their managers, aiding and abetting BOCC paid local agents in illegally obtaining and keeping consumers owed monies like the monies BOCC is stopping me from obtaining in your Hillsborough County courthouse. Now that you've been directly inputted with these facts, all of you can be sued as participants in place of your contracted paid agents for their racketeering activities under the respondent superior and law of agency doctrines. Either you have your sheriff investigate my wife's murder and fire Victor Chris, or be sued with him. I wish Mr. Hagan was here for the camera.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Next up is Margaret Converse, followed by Carl Williams.
Good morning, all, and thank you for having me here today. I am a resident of Regency Park, and I love the place, but unfortunately, we're in dire straits. Our park is an A-05 elderly, low-income community with over 400 mobile homes. Living in our park, we have many veterans. Our park has many homeowners living on a limited monthly income, not allowing us to have a large monthly assessment added to our monthly bills, which would cause so many of us to have to leave our home. I just want to say we are very grateful to Hillsborough County Commissioners allowing us this grant. It would truly be a Christmas miracle if we will all cherish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Converse. Carl Williams. Is Mr. Williams here? If not, followed by Monty Leedy, and then Jeffrey Pritchard. And those folks here. All right, keep moving. Charles Holsopple. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
My name is Monty Leedy, and I live at Regency Cove. I'm a 100% disabled Vietnam veteran. My wife and I are both disabled at this time. I want to thank you for allowing us to meet here today. Thank you for the grant. We need it. So many people in our park are living on Social Security or by the aid of somebody else. I'm one of the fortunate ones. I get to skim by each month. But we need this grant. And I want to thank you for letting me speak. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Jeffrey Pritchard, followed by a Charles Hulshoppel. Morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before the commission. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to help the community. I'm relatively new to the community. I moved in 5 years ago. It's my first time being in a community that has a homeowners association. And over the last 5 years that I've been there, I've really seen the value of the association and what it does for the community. And not only that, I've also realized how much history and bonding there is in the community. I'm retired on a fixed income, and my wife has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So, for me, I'm looking at potentially, some medical bills coming up that are going to be, a challenge to us. But I also know that, I'm not alone in that situation. As we get older, there are a lot of financial challenges on a fixed income. So the opportunity for the commission to help this community, I think, would be of great value, and I'm hopeful that it will go forward. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
Jeffrey Pritchard.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Hulshoppel, followed by Robert Rios, which is virtual, and then Danny Pipkin. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Charles Hulshoppel. I live at Regency Cove in Tampa. And a friend of mine just gave me this book, The History of Regency Cove, the First 50 Years. And this was printed about 20 years ago, I believe, when Mayor Iorio was mayor. And Regency Cove was a valuable historic part of Tampa, and it's become really one of the affordable options for seniors in the Tampa Bay area. And this the electrical grid upgrade is super valuable to the value of the community and a necessary improvement. And I'd like to thank the council for considering the help in upgrading that antiquated electrical system and continuing the history and the legacy of Hillsborough County taking care of the seniors. This is a great book. I think you can get it at the library, The History of Regency Cove. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We got Robert Rios, which is virtual, followed by Danny Pipkin and Carla Anderson. Is Mr. Rios on the line?
Mr. Chair, Robert Rios did not check in.
Okay, thank you. Danny Pipkin, followed by Carla Anderson, and then Debbie Phillips. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Danny Pipkin, and I'm a resident of Regency Cove. I'm a former public servant also. I spent 15 years with the state of Florida serving the residents, and another 10 years recently at the VA hospital. When I moved in about 8 years ago, one of the things that struck me was the veteran presence inside of the Cove. I served, my son served. There's a lot of service-related things going on in my world. But I also remember from the years with the DOT, budgets, constraints, funding. And I thought, what could I do? What could I say to you folks that when you get this in front of you this afternoon that would resonate? The service to our country, the service to our community. You all are doing that, and I thank you for that. I thank you for the opportunity to come up here. I noticed the POW MIA chair in the lobby here where we were sitting. One of the guys in our community is a 90-something-year-old World War II veteran, Manny. Love Manny. He's a great guy. we got a lot of veterans, and I see a lot of these older folks after these storms struggling, and I was asked to help move this, help stand my washing machine back up. The human factor. These older, us older, I am one. I never knew I was going to get to be old enough to be in a 55 community with a golf cart and all that stuff, but here I am. The opportunity to see the community and to be able to help other residents is touching. It's, you know, I've lived a life of trying to be of service, and I know that's what you all are doing. So I hope that you would, I don't know if this is true or not, but if you ever get the chance to come into the Regency Cove, I'm told that we have the biggest Jose Gaspar statue in the city of Tampa. And I invite you all to come in and look at it. It's a beautiful piece of paradise. But what's really good is the sense of community and family that we all share. I came in after the storm, and the boat from the bait shop had floated down the main street. And there was this old wooden boat. And all these people struggling, crying, hugging, trying to support each other. We could use the help, folks. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Carla Anderson, followed by Debbie Phillips, and then Charlene Corder. Morning.
Good morning. Okay. Hi, my name is Carla Anderson. We've just been there a couple of years at Regency Cove, and I had seen it several years ago when we went in there, but thought I'd never be able to live there. Even though I was old enough, I just didn't think I could do it. But it's been an affordable place to live for decades and decades. You've got people there who have been there. Well, some of them are second generation. They're living in their what they inherited from their parents. And many won't have any place else to go if they can't be there. It will be very difficult. So we really, really appreciate you all taking a second look at us for this grant. The devastation from the storms was awful. Everybody knows that. It wasn't just in Regency Cove. It was throughout South Tampa and many places in Florida and elsewhere. But this is an opportunity to help keep a gem. This is a special gem in South Tampa. You won't find another one like it anywhere near around. They're the veterans, the longtime people, the people that are disabled, people who are still able. Everybody works together. Everybody helps each other. And it's beautiful. It's really a beautiful place to live. And we hope that you'll be able to help us stay there, because there will be many, if we have to take on this whole expense individually, there will be many who have to give up their home. So I really appreciate the opportunity for us to meet with you and for you to consider the need and take care of it with that grant. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Debbie Phillips, followed by Charlene Corder. Is Corder here? Rolf Anderson. Nope. Miriam Frank. John Caruso. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm also a resident of Regency Cove, and after the hurricanes, there was a good bit of damage done in our park. Many of our veterans, many of our elderly people, a lot older than me, and those that are handicapped needed assistance. And the community as a whole came together and assisted each other, something that we do in America, something that is worthy to take notice of. One thing that I would like to mention is that in this process of recovering after the hurricane, we had to take a lot of our own money, which that's okay, and apply it toward repairs. So, and some of the repairs were substantial. The trailers needed new flooring, new cabinets. Where the water had come in, our unit was up to 3 feet from the ground coming up. So it was inside of our unit. We've made those repairs. But as a lot of people have said, the amount of money that we have on fixed incomes and other sources is very limited. So now to take on the project that TECO has told us about in our grid work for the electric, it's going to be very, very, very difficult for a good many of the residents there. So if we can have your consideration for the grant money, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And can you state your name, please? Sir, can you state your name? Sir. Name.
Rolf Anderson.
Thank you, sir.
Regency Cove.
Next speaker. I saw someone to get up. Good morning, sir.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Caruso. In 2021, my wife and I bought a place at the Regency Cove. And at the end of 2024, in October, we decided to move from Buffalo, New York to get away from the weather. And we moved here at the end of October of 2024. And when we got here, our place was chaotic. I seen all these elderly people just frazzled, and all we wanted to do was help. And then when the electrical thing started, we had town meetings at the Regency Cove, and there were more people in that room than I've ever seen. Most of them I never knew lived there. And after we were told what we might have to pay, I went outside and I watched these people come out of here with tears in their eyes, people that have lived there their whole entire lives, thinking, how am I going to get this money to be able to survive, to live here for the rest of my life? And at the same time, my wife and I are thinking we want to live here for the rest of our lives because it's an absolute beautiful place. And I just like to thank yous for considering the grant for us.
Thank you, Mr. Caruso. We got Patty Rogers. Patty Rogers here, followed by Lisa Hayes, and then David Cribb. Please come on down. Good morning.
Thank you for your time. I'm Patty Rogers, a resident of Regency Cove. I just moved in 3 years ago, and unfortunately, we were all hit hard by the hurricane. It's a great community. We all rallied and pulled together, but it took most of our incomes and savings to even make the repairs from the hurricane, and now we have the electrical needs, and it's overwhelming. Many are losing their homes. So I plead with you for your thought on this grant to help us maintain our homes and meet this financial need with electricity. Thank you for your consideration. Appreciate you so much for considering this.
All right, thank you. Next speaker. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Hayes. I moved to Regency Cove in 2021 after my husband passed, but I'd been to Regency Cove quite often before that because my mother and father retired down there in 1985, and so it was always a great place to come to. And so last year when we had our hurricane, it was quite an experience I'd never had before, and I don't want to have one again. And so there was a lot of rebuilding, and I know for a fact quite a few people have already moved because they couldn't afford to make the improvements or, remodeling or and stuff that you have to do after a hurricane. When we heard about the electrical infrastructure having to be redone and everything, it was, we knew it was going to cost a lot of money, and a lot of us don't have it. And so we are very grateful for you to be able to help us, and we would really appreciate it. Like someone else said, it would be a wonderful Christmas present to hear that we got the grant. And we thank you for your time. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. David Cribb, followed by Mike Puckett. Good morning, sir.
Hello, my name is David Cribb. I'm also a resident of Regency Cove on Gandy Boulevard. I'm a lifelong resident of South Tampa, and as many people look at South Tampa being the home of the money makers and movers and shakers, but if you are familiar with the area, when you get closer down to Gandy, where we are, it is not quite the same high rent district as it is other places. After the storms, we returned to find that there were electrical boxes were spewing smoke. They eventually had some fires in the place, and TECO informed us that the electrical system was totally shot and needed to be replaced. We had made repairs as we went along, trying to keep the system, to fix what was wrong. But the storm, with the amount of water that came in, destroyed the whole system, and TECO is working with us to provide a new entire electric system for the park. This is over 400 units and hundreds of residents in your area. So we really appreciate you considering that this grant for the Homes of Regency Cove Incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mike Puckett, followed by Jose Nunez.
Yep, Mike Puckett. I'm also a resident at HORC, short for Homes of Regency Cove, on the board of directors too. So I wanted to add to what David just said. Everybody got flooded by about 70% of the park was flooded out, and the devastation was horrible. Most of these facilities have their electrical boxes about 1.5 feet off the ground. I'm a part owner in a local architecture firm. I'd never seen a grid this old before in my life, and some of these meter boxes I didn't even know existed. But over time, the people that are there, they've tried to upgrade and so forth, but to see so many, 2 feet of water in their facilities, and they're already 3 feet up off the ground. The community center was completely flooded 4 feet. This grid is very old. TECO understands it too. They've been coming in. They understand that they've been coming in every day. They understand that they've got to put some money into it too. The residents have been doing the same exact thing. But this grant would go a long way. I know I got asked one time, it's like, what's the most important thing I see in the future? And it was this grid. It's not just a grid. Each house is getting a pedestal, a meter, a 220 box, and then also each panel is being upgraded to the 220 to all the, to the normal codes. So it's a big thing for us. That's why you've got all the people here, they know each other. It is a very tight community. So again, we really, really appreciate the consideration of this grant for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jose Nunez. Jose here? No. Susan Keith. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Susan Keith. I've been in Regency Cove full-time for the past 5 years. My house was hit with 27 inches of water around it, which destroyed the floors and the walls in my house. And we all struggled to get our places back to normal. And that financial burden was a lot. Now we realize our electrical infrastructure has to be replaced, and it was a huge bill. Most of us can't afford to write a check for $10,000 to $15,000. So if you could help us out, we'd really, really appreciate it. and God bless you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Ms. Keith. Okay, Daphne Ullman. Is Daphne here? Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing residents from the HORC, Homes of Regency Cove speak. My name is Daphne Ullman. I've owned a property there for the last 5 years, and I've grown to appreciate what this offers to our residents and the elderly community. As a recent retiree, I'm beginning to learn what it might mean to live on a fixed income. Most of our residents, as people have said before, are retirees. It's an over 55 community. They're living on fixed incomes. There's a tremendous amount of veterans in this community, and the community cares and supports each other. The damage that was done, you've already heard. The grid definitely needs to be replaced, not just for the safety of the homeowners, but probably a majority of the homes in that area. If that grid goes down, it's not just going to impact the 400 plus units and residents there, it's going to impact the rest of the general community. You know the way the electrical grids work. So this is not just an investment in our community, it's an investment in the general community surrounding us in South Tampa. As I mentioned, a lot of the people are on fixed incomes and without the ability to afford these required repairs. I've already known a handful of people that have left the community, people that have been there for years but realized with another devastation like we had in 2024, they will not be able to survive and continue to pay the additional assessments to keep this community safe. So I reach out to you at this holiday season to say, please approve the grant for our community. We've already invested a significant portion of money that is not part of that grant that exceeds 7 figures just to start the electrical repairs that are required. And many of the elderly residents of this community, it would be a blessing and it would ease the economic pain that they endure on a daily basis. Thank you, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Ullman. Appreciate your comments. That closes public comment. I apologize to those who did not get an opportunity to speak this morning. Can we have a motion to approve consent?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion, Commissioner Meyer, second, Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on the consent agenda.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, Bonnie, you want to introduce the first time certain?
The first time certain is a public hearing. This is item D1. This is to conduct a public hearing regarding the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. And Brenda Brackens will take us through this public hearing. And while Brenda's coming to the podium, we'd like to welcome her back. And glad that she's doing well.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brenda. Welcome back.
Thank you. Brenda Brackens, Affordable Housing Director. We're here to present item D1, to conduct a public hearing to accept comments on the Program Year 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, known as the CAPER, and to close the public comment period that began on November 13, 2025, and to approve the submittal of the CAPER to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is HUD. This is a requirement of HUD, and the CAPER details the use of funds received for the Community Development Block Grant, which is our CDBG grant, the Home Investment Partnership, and Emergency Solutions Grant, which is our ESG grant. The report accounts for all programs, infrastructure projects, public services, and other community development activities funded through these federal programs between October 1, 2024 and September 30, 2025. This is a public hearing.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. I believe we had one individual sign up. Kenneth Thomas, virtual. Is Mr. Thomas on the line?
Chair, Kenneth Thomas did not sign in.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing no one else, can we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on D1.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, it finally worked. Thank you.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Thank you. The next item is item D2. This is to conduct a public hearing for the transfer of certain property rights within the Stacey R. White Preserve ELAP site to the Water Resources Department. And Forrest Turbeville will take us through this public hearing.
Good morning, Forrest.
Good morning, Commissioners. Forrest Turbeville, Conservation Environmental Lands. The item before you today is comprised of 3 requested board actions. The first action is to hold a public hearing to consider the transfer of certain property rights within the Stacey R. White ELAP Preserve to the Water Resources Department in support of the One Water South wastewater conveyance and treatment project. The transfer of these rights is necessary for Water Resources to construct the project, which involves the installation of underground pipelines, the establishment of vehicular access to a new pump station, and construction of a stormwater pond in accordance with the recommended approvals that were provided by the ELAP General Committee back in March of 2024 and March of 2025. The second action is to request that you adopt a resolution designating a portion of the preserve for this water resources project in accordance with the conditions that are stipulated in the resolution itself. One of these conditions is that the Water Resources Department compensates the ELAP program for the value of the property rights being transferred, which was calculated at $374,893. These funds are available within the Water Resources project budget, and following adoption of the resolution by the board, will be transferred to the ELAP program within 60 days. And then finally, the third action is to request your approval of a budget amendment resolution to accept and appropriate $374,893 to the ELAP Capital Restoration Project. These funds will be used to implement both upland and wetland restoration projects across the remainder of the preserve. A reminder, this is a public hearing, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Forrest. No one has signed up, but would anyone like to speak to D2? If not, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Woolstill, second, Commissioner Miller. Please record your vote on D2.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thanks, Forrest. Bonnie.
Thank you. The next public hearing is item D3. This is a public hearing to approve by 2/3 vote impact fee increase ordinances and for the water and wastewater rate resolution. Hank Ennis will take us through this. We have staff Lisa Ray, our representative from Stantec, and George Cassidy here for any questions.
Good morning. Hank Ennis, County Attorney's Office. Commissioners, what you have before you is both a rate resolution and an impact fee increase ordinance. Because the staff is recommending an increase in the South Central Service Area of impact fees greater than 50%, there are certain things the board had to go through to get to where we are today. One of them is to have 2 workshops on the demonstrated needs study, which you did on December 9th and December 10th. Also, staff prepared with Stantec the study that demonstrates the extraordinary circumstances necessitating the need to raise the impact fees greater than 50%, and that's part of your backup. And then the action today will require a 2/3 vote by the board, which is 5 affirmative votes. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lisa to present the item.
Thanks, Hank. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Lisa Ray, Director of Water Resources, and we are here for this public hearing on the water and wastewater impact fees. High level, we're going to be talking about some basic definitions and history, the key drivers behind the need for the impact fee increases, the proposed impact fees, and then the next steps. So generally, what are impact fees? They are one-time fees paid to connect new customers or construction to help cover the cost of expanding the water and wastewater systems so that growth pays for itself. Now, we really operate two very different service areas. In the Northwest, we have a service area that is very well developed, does not see a lot of growth, and has plenty of capacity at the plants. So that is being treated differently than our South Central area, which has a significant amount of growth. A lot of new people, new homes being built, new commercial endeavors going in, which is requiring the construction of a new wastewater treatment plant, the associated infrastructure, pipelines and pump stations, as well as a new water plant. Now, a little bit of history on the impact fees. From 2005 to 2020, the impact fees were held constant. There was an increase done in 2020, and we'll talk a little bit about what happened since 2020 that drives the extraordinary circumstances between the growth and the inflation. But I do want to remind everybody what an ERC is. This is an equivalent residential connection. So because water use, the way these are calculated is on dollars per gallon cost, we use the average residential home as the basis. These same rates apply to commercial and industrial based on a proportional relationship to the residential use. So a restaurant would use a lot more than a house. Their impact fees based on a per gallon basis would be that much higher. And we use this just as a reference point as we talk about impact fees. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Andy from Stantec so that he can update us on a couple of items. Thank you, Lisa.
Good morning, Commissioners. As was indicated, we did have discussions on a lot of the key drivers and the extraordinary circumstances that are driving the need for higher impact fees for water and sewer on December 9th and 10th. However, just briefly for the benefit of a refresher and for the public that may not have heard those workshops, I wanted to just recap those items for us today very briefly. So fundamentally, they boil down to three drivers: historical, recent, and continued growth rates that are substantial. They've represented significant amounts of growth within the South Central service area in particular. Over the past few years, that's been about a 22% increase in demands. If you go back to 2017, our water demands have increased by about 61%. That's a pretty fantastic number. And so attendant with that is the need to then, as we have continued growth even beyond that, to build new facilities to support continued growth into the future, which is at similar levels in terms of magnitude of growth, but the cost of that infrastructure has risen substantially since the fees were last adjusted. We benchmarked a few different types of construction projects pre-COVID and to now, and noticed significant increases in the cost of capital facilities. Pipelines had increased over 200%, and as shown on the screen, wastewater treatment facilities had increased by over 300% in just a 5-year time period. So there's fantastic increases in cost, and because of the nature of the growth, large facilities are required, providing 34 million gallons a day on the wastewater side and an additional 46 million gallons a day on average for the water side. So we need a significant amount of additional capacity, and the cost of that capacity has increased substantially. And unfortunately, we need this capacity very soon because we are approaching our limitations of some of our existing facilities now during dry periods on the water side at our Lithia water treatment plant. And on the wastewater side, over the next couple of years, based on current and planned growth, we'll be at or near capacity at 2 of our wastewater treatment facilities in South County. So these are some very significant circumstances. To use the term extraordinary, I don't think is an overstatement, especially when we take into account the magnitude of the costs that are required in South County. This is included in your backup, and we talked about it extensively on the 9th and 10th, but we're talking about investing about $2 billion in additional infrastructure for growth over the near term. That is more than the current net book value of your existing utility system as a whole. So we're talking about the equivalent of building another new utility in the next near term to serve growth. I mean, this is truly a significant investment that you're undertaking. And so with that in mind, in the context that Lisa provided, we performed updates to take your localized data for your actual system assets in Northwest, your planned improvements for the South Central area, to determine what is that current unit cost of capacity that we have in place today for Northwest and that we're anticipating building in our South Central service area to update our impact fees, to make sure that we had a fair unit cost based on that current cost of capacity in those two areas. So this slide shows you the adjustments for the water and wastewater fees for each service area. So for Northwest, the increase for water is 18.7%. For wastewater, it's 43%. Both of those are being proposed to be phased in consistent with the Florida Impact Fee Act in those instances. However, with South Central, because of those extraordinary circumstances and the demonstrated needs findings, those adjustments are substantial and they're proposed to be implemented very soon because of those extraordinary circumstances. An increase in the total fees from $5,865 per ERU for water and wastewater combined to $13,270. And I do want to point out that these fees were calculated in accordance with industry accepted approaches and based on the nature of the facilities being used to serve growth in the future. So for Northwest, that methodology was based on the cost of the existing infrastructure that has the capacity to serve growth. And in South Central, it's based on the cost of these planned and upcoming improvements, some of which are in progress at this point today. And that was the basis of the fees. So as we look towards an implementation schedule, this slide just shows kind of the presentation of how these increases would be implemented in Northwest. There would be a 2-year increase plan for the water side and a 4-year phased approach for the wastewater side. So you could see in total at the bottom how that combined water and sewer impact fee would change each year. Initially in Northwest, it's about $500 per year, and then for the last 2 years, it drops to about $300 per year. However, the increase for South Central, based on those extraordinary circumstances, is not being proposed to be phased at this time. And so I think it's important to have some context when you look at these. As part of our analysis, we often do benchmarking. Your fees need to be based on your current and localized data, but it's helpful to have an understanding of what's going on around you. However, there are a lot of variables when it comes to impact fees. For communities, we don't know when they last updated their fees in many instances, what methodology they used, what facilities they have. Did they go to full cost recovery fee? What's the structure of their fees? There's a number of variables here. But what I can say is that we do a lot of work, not just with the county, but several agencies throughout the state of Florida nationally. And when we do updates to these fees, because of the magnitude of increases in costs that we've seen in the last few years, the more recent fee updates tend to be towards the higher end of the chart. And even entities that have updated their fees fairly recently are coming back to and having conversations about updating their fees again in light of these cost increases. So keep that in mind as you consider what you have in front of you today. But this is just to give you a perspective that of the range of fees that we see, and that as they're updated, we continue to see even some of the studies that are in progress on this chart, fees that are coming out comparable to, if not even higher than what we're talking about for South Central. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Lisa to talk about next steps timeline and also some of the backup material we have.
Sir, could you identify yourself for the record?
Oh, absolutely. My name is Andrew Burnham with Stantec.
Okay, thank you, Andy. So we did conduct the 2 public workshops to discuss the demonstrated needs. We are now holding the public hearing, and pending board approval, the implementation would go into effect 90 days from approval. However, I do want to point out we do have background or additional backup slides. This does include a couple of phase-in options that we have discussed during some of the briefings that we held earlier this week and end of last week. So we had individual slides in here, but for ease of reference, and it's not in the slide deck, I do have a summary, and I printed out copies for each board member. So I guess I can hand them to you, and instead of flipping back and forth between a bunch of different slides, I thought it would be easier if I had all those individual items summarized. Is it up? Okay, so as we were discussing this over the last couple of weeks, we talked about the impact that this would have on the community and on the businesses. And initially, the proposal that we had put and that was shown in the slide deck was for full cost recovery in South Central immediately in 2026. So that would be option 1. You can see that we go from our current fees in 2025 to the full implementation of the $13,270 in 2026. So then we took it into a couple of different steps. We took the total increase, divided it by 2, spread it over a 2-year implementation. Again, same thing, taking the total increase, divided by 3, spread it over a 3-year implementation, and so on. We have a 4-year implementation as well. We did also present as an option a mirror implementation to the Northwest. So in the Northwest, per statute, it's 2 years for the water, 4 years for the wastewater. We did present a mirror image of that for South County as well. And I know that there was interest in having those options available for discussion purposes, so I did want to summarize this for you. This is a public hearing. If there's any questions, we're happy to take them. And
all right, thank you very much for the presentation. We've got 4 individuals that have signed up to speak. First one's Denise Herndon, followed by Elizabeth Ferrier, is virtual, then Todd Josko. Good morning.
Good morning, I'm Denise Herndon. My understanding of impact fees on the new developers was for the water, sewage, or wastewater, fire stations, schools, roads, but what I'm hearing is that the impact fees that are placed on the developers is concerning just the water and the wastewater and the pump stations. When did this get changed in our Hillsborough County? I've heard in the past that, oh, we had to over 30 fire stations that needed to be built because of the expansion, and there was no funding for it. And so one of the county commissioners touted a lot of town halls that was her only reasoning to get the CIT revoted. But what's really wanting is an arts and cultural center that we don't need. We already heard many people here talking about needing help because of an electrical grid. An arts and cultural center isn't necessary. This is causing segregation. I have never been a racist or discriminating about anybody, but when you start putting false things out there, saying something's for the fire stations, when the last meeting it really came out true what it was all about. It was about getting funding for an arts and cultural center that even if there's donor to build it, the county taxpayers are going to be paying for it forever. And there is a community in here that needs their lift stations. They are paying for their lift stations. There's somebody in here right now that they were out of their business for weeks because they had sewage problems. Their lift station is in the center of their property. Most lift stations are right near the county sewer lines. This one isn't. There's a parking lot over it. I don't know where all the problem was, but this was at the Outback Shopping Center, or Strip Center at Brandon Boulevard and Gornto Lake Road. I really think that county should be paying and footing the bill for all lift stations that they are required to take care of. If they're paying for over 900 for new developments, why can't they pay for existing ones that you guys weren't ever paying for? We need to have that changed and not an arts and cultural center.
Thank you, Ms. Herndon. Elizabeth Ferrier, is she virtual?
Elizabeth has not signed in.
All right, thank you. Last 2 speakers, Todd Josko, and then followed by Cammie Corbett. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Josko. I'm here on behalf of NAIOP Tampa Bay, which is the region's commercial real estate trade association, to ask respectfully for you to consider a phase-in approach for the South Central water and wastewater impact fees. I don't think anybody could agree that this has been a smooth process. A lot of this information was only released to the public on Friday. I heard staff mention that the rate increase for residential and commercial will be the same, but like that was something that was not evident in any of the materials. It took a lot of investigating on my point to figure that out, that was indeed the case, to the point that I would have chosen not to be here today. I could have communicated these concerns in a letter, but like there literally wasn't even time to turn around a letter to express our concerns. I know that there were 2 workshops that were conducted. Again, respectfully, I think they met the letter of the law, but maybe not the spirit of the law. In the past, when the county has done impact fee increases, we've had charrettes workshops up on the 26th floor where the public could ask questions of staff and of the consultants. Obviously in board workshops, the public can't comment. So here we are today. This is the first time that the public has been able to comment on this. And with your vote today, there will be no opportunity for the public to ask any questions of any of this. In the past, the county has phased in impact fee over periods of years. And again, because of all of these concerns, we would ask respectfully the same, that the commission phase in these impact fee increases over a 4-year period. So thank you very much for listening, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Josko. Cami Corbett.
Good morning. Excuse me. Every time. Good morning, Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson. And I'd like to express my deep disappointment at the lack of transparency in this process. As Todd just mentioned, we usually have a very good dialogue with staff. It was like pulling teeth to get this information. It made it very difficult for us to vet it. It makes it very difficult to support industry. Both commercial and home building industries have supported reasonable impact fees that are phased in and historically done so. But the way this has been presented and the way this is putting you in a difficult position is really, really disappointing. And so we, at a minimum, would request that you phase in the impact fee to give businesses the time and the consumer time to absorb this increase over time. I'm having a very difficult time understanding how someone pulling a building permit in June of this year is going to benefit from a facility that doesn't come online for another 3 years. And the law requires there to be, the fee payer must benefit from the fee they're paying. And I'm really struggling with this one. And so I'd respectfully request at a minimum that you phase it in.
All right, thank you. All right, that closes public comment. We'll go into board discussion. Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just say off the top, I'm really not concerned with whatever time frame the board wants and a phased-in approach for the southeast section. I'm not really concerned in that. I just want to point to a couple of our board policies, frustrations. First, George, during the last workshop, you had told my colleagues that you weren't sure if I had heard or what I had heard at the past rate increase fee. You have since gone and found the video, and I just want to make it clear to my colleagues that what I heard was 100% correct, which is that the rate consultant in 2023 said at that microphone that 50% of the monthly rate increase of user fees that was being adopted was for new impacts for the Southeast County. Okay, I've got an acknowledgement. That was doubted during our last workshop, but that is absolutely what the rate consultant, not Stantec who did that one, it was Reptelis or whatever. And I just want to read a real quick snippet, Mr. Chair, of Board Policy 33100, which is the water and wastewater financial policy. I'm not going to read the whole thing, which is that in addition, the funds to expand the utility system to service new customers shall be obtained through capacity fees, past earnings, grants, including the community investment tax, proceeds bonded from the capacity assessment units, and unbonded capacity assessment units. It does not say that we will expand the utility service to service new customers by increasing existing customers' monthly user fee, and that is absolutely what's been happening for the past 2 years. I, in the northwest area of Hillsborough, am paying for future new residents in the southeast Hillsborough, and it's inappropriate. So all that I really want is that at the bottom of this, it says that the Water and Wastewater Department is required to conduct an annual assessment of their fees. And the promise to me was, well, we will make sure that when this money is captured for these new residents, that they will follow that policy and bring back a recommendation to reduce that monthly user fee that we imposed to that 50%. So then I asked, well, when is the last time that the Water and Wastewater Department proposed reducing the monthly user fee? And that, of course, that answer was never. So I don't exist on hopes and dreams. So I want to make sure that whatever motion that we make today, that we're amending whatever ordinance or policy that mandates that as we capture the new capacities revenue for One Water's plant, that we are requiring them to proportionally phase down that 50% increase of the monthly water bill that was imposed for these new assessments. Because if we don't, then it's essentially we're saying you get your cake and you eat it too, and in life we know that that doesn't happen. The other thing that I would say is that board policy 32209, which is the user fees and cost recoveries policies, mandates that we capture these fees through these assessment units. There's multiple policies that support us making sure, and in those policies it says multiple times full cost recovery based on competent financial assessments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I've looked at this. I would say that I agree with the speakers. I found it frustrating even to me. I mean, when I put forward, hey, I want full cost recovery, and I don't want to make mince words about it, because people need to pay their own costs of doing business in Hillsborough County, not new customers. And if those costs are too unattractive, then I guess we're not that attractive of a place to live after all. But what I will say is that I was disappointed that the actual report was not out until December the 2nd, even though I immediately told staff it's important to me that we include everybody, make sure that everyone has all this information. It was conveyed to me that they didn't have that information, and that's because the report was not done at the time of them asking it. That you can go and read the report. It is dated December the 2nd, which is what clued me in on that. I don't think that it was intentional or mischievous. I just think that it's an expedited timeline because of the reality that we are facing with the legislature. And the other final thing, Mr. Chair, that I would say that makes this impossible for us to not do full cost recovery is because I used to negotiate commodity goods in metals. That's what I did in the industry before I built my shipping store. And it was really difficult for me to balance cost for my customers over a 12-month time frame even in the commodity goods sector. It can be very volatile. You just don't know what you're going to get. You're usually dealing with international companies. But there's a state law that restricts us to doing it only once every 4 years, which is impossible for them to manage stabilized pricing when we're dealing with some of these massive infrastructure improvements. So I'm going to support whatever delayed process. I would say that an immediate 90-day implementation of this would be unfair to some applicant who's already in the pipeline. They've already analyzed what their costs are going to be, and this would immediately change everything that they've done, even though they've spent money on their project. So I will support a delayed implementation in the southeast sector, but no one has showed me a line item of all the line items that were on the back of the agenda that they disagreed with any of the rates, of any of the costs that were associated with the many different projects that this money is going to be spent on. And what I would say is that if we're not going to do it, do we have the money to finish One Water?
Thank you, Commissioner. What we would end up doing is borrowing the money, and we would be using the rates, the customer rates, as pledge to cover the bonding.
Yeah. Okay. I'll end on that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Cohen.
So I think you've laid out very well some of the difficulties that we're facing here today. When you alluded to the legislature, I think it's important for people to know that if we don't make this decision before December 31st, it's going to require a unanimous vote in the future to do so. And that is just an unreasonably high bar for us to wait. So there is something that is pushing us that doesn't allow us to kick this can down the road. I spoke at the workshop about the need to phase this in. And, you know, I want to go back to 2020 for just a minute. There were 3 of us that were here then, and our big issue at the time was whether or not we were going to do a phase-in approach or we were going to impose it all at once. And those of us that are still here favored, and I'm not implying that that's the reason we're still here, but we did favor a phased-in approach for a couple of reasons. First of all, you said it yourself. People that are already in the pipeline have their plans made, their costs figured, their financing in place, and this is going to be implemented. I had said during the workshop in January, it's actually in March, but the fact is it's right around the corner. So to impose something as large as 126% increase at this late date, it would create a big burden. It would also, because we know that it's going to be passed on to consumers, effectively add $7,500 to the cost of any new house almost immediately. And I think, given the current state of the economy, that's also a burdensome thing. I appreciate the 5 options that have been presented to us, and I wanted to just, before the other board members spoke, say that I'm prepared to vote for really options 3, 4, or 5, depending on what the board's pleasure is. I think that 1 and 2 are a little too steep to start off with. I do think that the advantage of option 5 is that it keeps everything consistent across the entire county, and it would definitely be less confusing if the amounts were increasing by the same percentage and on the same timeline in all parts of the county. But either way, I'm prepared to support the phased-in approach that's been laid out here. And, you know, in terms of your motion, Commissioner Wastel, I think there's no reason in the world that we can't entertain that and attempt to do that in the year to come. But I think we've got to make the big decision today and go forward with this because of the constraints that have been imposed by the legislature.
Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, I have so many thoughts on this. I want to start with saying, you know, a couple of the speakers brought up the point that, you know, this feels rushed and there was lack of information. And I have told members of the staff the question, like, why? Why are we in this position? Why are we being rushed when this bill was proposed in the House in February and passed in June? And we had it pushed into December, and it feels very rushed. And so while we did have the public hearings, and we did check the official boxes, did we really meet the intent of having the public hearing so that this information could get out into the community? Because we operate in the sunshine, we don't even have, you know, the short window, the compacted time frame didn't allow us to be able to go out in the community and learn and understand and be able to develop our own information. And we had very short windows of where we could communicate with one another with where we are. So I just want to say that was one of the things that I'm very dissatisfied with. I do feel like, and I don't know that it was intentional or not intentional. I'd like to think it wasn't intentional, but either way, it still has put us as a board, we're making a multi-million-dollar decision with no real ability to move it down the road. And that they couldn't answer some questions I didn't have an answer to. For example, if we go to the 4-year, which is where I'm leaning towards, does that put us, I'm not a financier, does that put us in a position where we could potentially be passing on cost to current residents? we don't have that studies yet because we're moving at such an aggressive timeline. So I'm going to be in favor of the lack of transparency in how this process has been rolled out.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple of comments. When we had our briefing last week, one of the questions I asked our staff, did we have the opportunity to go out and meet with the developers and all and share that information? And it was a yes answer back. And hearing the comments from two of the speakers this morning, it was just information really not shared with them. And I want to go back to Commissioner Cohen, because we were here, I want to say, when we talked about the impact fees in 2021, I believe it was 2020, is those applicants that are already in our system should not be penalized because they met the criteria of submitting their applications in a timely manner before we're looking at this rate increase today. So I'm going to come back and make that motion separately, because I really believe they should not be penalized and said, here's an additional cost that you're going to be burdened on December the 17th when your application could have been submitted some months ago. That is unfair, okay? That's just my take, and hopefully the board members, y'all will understand the reason that. A good example, we can go out and want to purchase a house and says, hey, oh, let me go back and get my spouse, and we've told the house might be $500,000. You come back with your spouse, it's $1 million plus. Is that fair to you that you want to buy this dream home you've been looking at and all? So I'm just saying we need to really look at that and not bring that back to this board again. It's the day that the board votes, that's when we should move forward on new applications, those coming into the system. Let's not penalize those who are already in our system, and we're saying, hey, here's a higher increase. I think staff, you all should look at that more closely in the future when you all consider bringing that back. I'm going to move to approve option number 5.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor for option number 5 by Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, I would like a counter motion for option 4 and with an effective date 90 days from now.
Okay, we have a substitute motion by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Do we have a second? Okay, the motion dies for lack of a second. Commissioner Bowles.
Thank you, Chair. I think all of our board members have kind of really set this up, especially Commissioner Wastel, Commissioner Cohen. And as I understand it, these monies are collected once the CO is that correct? Is issued to the builder?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Yeah, so any monies that are collected are kind of held in trust by the developers or the commercial properties, you know, and I'm just using that term loosely. And so at some point, if they have 1,000 sites, they'd have to have that money set aside. So they're kind of putting this money aside, knowing that it's going to change, which I think brings up the point that Commissioner Whistle was saying, that, you know, you're kind of already leveraging today's dollars against tomorrow's sites. So with that, so even if we started collecting, let's say, charging that today, those monies wouldn't be actually put in use and built or being used for us to build the infrastructure until possibly 1 or 2 years down the road.
Well, that's correct. So we do collect them at the time of CO, or when we set a meter for someone to move into a home or someone to move into a commercial establishment. And I'd like to just make sure that you understand that when we changed our impact fees in 2020, we established a protocol so that if you were in the development process, if you were in the queue, you had a permit application in the queue, we honored the existing rate at that time. So if they're already in the process, we honor the current rate. It's only those folks that come in kind of after that 90-day window and start making applications for service and/or for building. That's when the new rate kicks in.
Right, so there's you said protocol, policy, were we using those interchangeably?
I think it was our practice, because we went through this. It was some growing pains because we had not changed impact fees for quite some time. And so when we got to that point, it was okay, immediately it was, okay, well, someone already has a building permit in the queue. They've already have an application in the queue. How are we going to handle that? And so we honored those that were in the queue.
Okay, so if we did the board motion that Commissioner Myers is speaking about afterwards, it would just codify what we're already doing.
We can do that.
Yeah, okay. All right, so again, getting back to the so if we're building this infrastructure and we're collecting this money on the backside, are we using those monies, and again, I'm using the term loosely, the trust money, okay, as leverage for our bonds? Is that how we're kind of looking at it?
So we have a revenue stream from our rates.
Mm-hmm.
That gives us the credit worthiness to borrow the money.
Mm-hmm.
Once we borrow the money and we have a debt service, a mortgage payment, if you will, to pay monthly or annually, we're certainly relying on those impact fees to make those payments. They're pledged for debt service, that we're obligated to pay for debt service. If let's just say that if the development slows down and we don't recover enough of the revenue from the impact fees to make us whole on our mortgage payment, we will then use user fees. We're projecting that the full recovery, when we get there, it will cover 100% if development maintains its current pace.
And so then we wouldn't have, to what Commissioner was speaking about, user fees paying some portion thereof.
We would anticipate there's a place in time where the impact fees will cover 100% of the debt service, and that we would be able to look at potentially evaluating a rate decrease.
And in 5 years, we're expecting One Water to be running?
Yes, it'll be up and running between 3 and 5.
And if we do this phase in over the 3 or 4 year period, will that interfere with our ability to borrow or the ability to actually?
It will not.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'm just going to make a couple comments before we go back around. Like what other board members said, I'm not going to point any fingers during this process, but it's certainly been a fire drill. And I, frankly, have always loathed decisions and votes that have to be made due to quick deadlines. I understand and completely agree that the ratepayers should not subsidize new homes. That is certainly an important point. However, for me, whenever we've considered impact fee increases, I've always balanced the need for increased fees and recovery with affordability, because unlike what some folks believe out there, the builder or developer does not absorb these fee increases. They're passed on to the buyer. And as we know, we do have an affordability crisis. As I've said here before, I felt it even my home when my son graduated college and has to live at home because unable to, although he has a job, unable to afford an apartment. So that's why I've supported most of the affordable housing projects that have come before us. I was leaning toward option 4, but I'm okay with option 5. I think it should be phased in because it softens the blow, if you will, to future home buyers. However, we need to as Commissioner Myers stated, not penalize those in the system. And I know historically we've honored, as George said, honored those that are in the queue. So however we need to codify that is good with me. And I also believe that as a future planning tool would be prudent moving forward, that every, 3 or 4 years, or whatever the time frame is, that we should review and evaluate our program and market. It'll be helpful certainly for our planning efforts and also the industry to help them, and it'll get us ahead of the needs curve. And again, I personally don't want to go through any more fire drills. Commissioner Wostel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be real brief. One thing I didn't state is that another issue that the board is going to have to address is that this rate increase is for the assumption of 106,000 new, let's call it, single-family homes, except for we've asked almost 2 years ago the Planning Commission to bring us back our expansion study areas, and we still don't know anything. So we're going to have to balance that with saying, hey, where are these units going to be and where is this cost recovery going to come from? That's a different conversation. One thing also on that note that I talked to George about that I found out is that multifamily homes disproportionately pay significantly less of an impact on these impact fees, and it evidently hasn't been looked at in like 3 decades plus of when it was put in. So I'm going to be putting back an item to make sure that there's a balancing act, hopefully heavily swinging back in the opposite direction. So I just, when you were talking about where's that money going to come from, and finally, George, you're too good at your job, you're very seasoned, but your words were very careful about we may possibly bring back. That's exactly where I'm going to bring back a policy to say that you will do this, and I hope that I get the votes, just to be very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I call for the vote, just one last point on what Commissioner Wilson said. If I'm not mistaken, typically we've averaged 7,000 to 8,000 new homes a year, and I think as of late it's been our last year around 3,000 homes. So we need to recognize that fact as well. Okay, so motion on the floor, Commissioner Meyer, second Commissioner Cohen, and then again to confirm, George, do we need to add any language as far as protecting those that are already in the queue?
I don't believe we need to do anything other than just we'll acknowledge that we're going to go back and look at our processes, and we'll share that with the board.
Okay. All right. Please record your vote.
Requiring a 2/3 vote, motion carried 7-0.
All right. Thank you. Excellent discussion. Next item.
Thank you. And the next item is relating to the financing of the One Water project. This is item B5. Kevin Brickey will take us through the financing, and then we have 2 related items, B6 and B7, relating also to the One Water project.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Brickey, Director of Management and Budget. B5 is a line of credit related to the One Water program. The One Water program is designed to address both the immediate and long-term needs, wastewater and water needs in the county's south central service area. It includes a new wastewater treatment plant, a pump station, and 20 miles of new large diameter pipelines designed to meet the high growth in demand due to high growth in the South County area. The program is expected to span over 6 years at an approximate cost of about $1.7 billion. The Water Resource Department has identified the need to encumber new contracts of about $300 million this winter and further later in FY26. Given the scope of the program and the nature of the required contracts and the long lead times required for delivery of some of the major materials and equipment, the program will require that the county enter into these contracts and encumber funds well in advance of the need for cash spending. While large contracts will be entered during the first 3 years of the program, most of the spending will occur in the final 3 years of the program. As a result, PRAG, our financial advisor, recommended that the county not pursue a long-term bond issue at this point, but rather utilize a short-term credit facility and target bonds at a later date. Bond issuances have federal requirements that have expenditure timelines of 3 to 5 years, and most of the expenditures for the One Water project will occur either late in that period or after that period. Item B4 requests the approval of a resolution providing for the issuance of a subordinate utility revenue note, Series 2025, in the principal amount of not to exceed $400 million at any one time and not to exceed $1.5 billion in aggregate over time, and authorize the execution and delivery of a revolving credit agreement with Bank of America, N.A., and approve a net zero change budget amendment to realign budgets and pay costs related to this issuance. We have revised the budget amendment that was in your backup. And for the record, Julie Wisdom, our debt manager, will be passing that revised budget amendment out. It's still a net zero budget amendment. It does make sure those realignments bring in the line of credit in an appropriate manner. Debt service for both FY 25, 26, and 27 is anticipated to be about $9.5 million annually, paid from water, wastewater system funds. And Wendell Gartner from Prague is also with us, and I thank him for his participation.
All right, thank you for the presentation. I don't see anyone in the queue. No questions or comments. Can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Wilson, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on B5.
Motion carried, 6-0.
B6.
And Lisa will take us through items B6 and B7. And just for the record, I think Kevin said item B4, but it was B5.
Thank you, Commissioners. Lisa Ray, Director of Water Resources, and I'm here to talk to you about item B6. I'll also be talking about item B7 kind of simultaneously as I go through the PowerPoint. B6 is asking the board to approve the third modification to the Progressive Design Build Agreement with Garney Companies, Inc. for the One Water South Wastewater Conveyance and Treatment Project, increasing the existing contract amount by $224,619,407.06. So the One Water program, as we've spoken about before, is one of the largest, or is the largest capital project that the county has ever undertaken. And in this sense, we are building three separate main components: the wastewater treatment plant, the super lift station, and the related pipelines. In order to complete this work, we do have Garney on board as the Progressive Design Build team. We also have Carollo Engineering on as owner's advisor. They provide support in project management as well as specialized engineering services that we do not have in-house. We have completed the design on these components, and we are now moving into construction. The construction services at this point are going to be our long lead time materials. We're beginning the work on the Balm Road Super Lift Station, which is where the ELAP property was discussed earlier. We have early works on the actual wastewater treatment site, including pipeline, foundation work, and construction of some of the pipeline. The goal for the project and a DWBE participation was 14, and currently we are achieving 15.66%. Upcoming packages, we will have several more coming to the board over the next year that will include additional lift station construction, pipeline segments, construction of the wastewater treatment plant itself in August. That is a very large GMP anticipated at that point, and then finalizing our pipeline construction. And with that, I do ask you to approve item B6.
Thank you.
And I'm available for any questions.
Questions, comments, board members? If not, can we have a motion?
Move to second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on B6.
Motion carried, 7-0.
B7.
And B7 is to approve the sixth modification to an agreement with Carollo Engineering, Inc. for additional continued professional services support associated with the South County One Water program for the Water Resources Department. Their assistance is for both the wastewater and the drinking water plant. Their DWBE participation is at 14.98, and their goal was 10%.
Can we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on B7.
0.
Okay, thank you. Bonnie, you got a 10:30 time certain?
Yes, sir. The next item is item E1. This is to receive a special appearance by Craig Richard, the President and CEO of the Tampa Bay Economic Development Council.
Good morning, Craig.
Morning. I received 3 emails to keep it really brief, so I promise you it'll be brief.
We thank you in advance.
Indeed. Well, today I'm here to present the annual report for quarters 3 and 4, and got some great news to share with you. We have, you'll see that we have a goal in our contract with the county to at least announce 22 projects, and I'm pleased to say that we announced 20 development. And so year to date, we actually raised $2.8 million in private sector funding to support economic development. 2 of the projects that we worked with are some pretty well-known projects. One is the Israeli drone technology company, and you'll see in the picture there that we had Lieutenant Governor of Florida, Jay Collins, joined us on the ribbon cutting. And then at the picture at the bottom there, there's a picture of Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company, which broke ground on an 84,000 square foot corporate headquarters and is investing $18 million in the county. Some of our business development activities included a trip to Boston, Massachusetts to the Bio International Convention. We were in Illinois for a FinTech Symposium. And then we had our signature sales mission in New York, where we visited site selection consultants, corporate real estate brokers, and we actually got to slip in a nice game with the New York Yankees. I want to thank Commissioner Hagan for joining us in London for our Global Tampa Bay signature sales mission. Along with Commissioner Hagan, we had the chairs of the county commissions for Pinellas and for Pasco County. We also had the mayors of Clearwater, St. Pete, and Tampa join us on this. It was a very productive meeting. Also, last year, in terms of our international activity, we hosted 2 delegations, one from Japan and one from the Netherlands. Both of those delegations were in support of the formation of the Tampa Medical and Research District that we've been working on with TGH. Expand Tampa Bay is our business retention and expansion program. We work to visit with 120 local companies, and this year we had about 65% of those companies reported that they are currently working in hybrid schedules, which is affecting our increase in office occupancy rates. Nearly 77% reported increase in their local employment over the last year, and one of the difficulties that 7% have reported is a difficulty in hiring. So that's something that we will be working with our educational partners and Career Source on as well. In our partnership with Visit Tampa Bay, I'm pleased to announce that Visit Tampa Bay launched a brand new website in support of Make It Tampa Bay, which is our talent attraction program. This new campaign generated about 83 million impressions across all digital channels and more than 55,000 visitors to the new website, and which brings it up to about 90,000 in total for fiscal year 2025. Our souped-up social media campaigns included LinkedIn campaigns that have generated more than 21,000 new clicks to the EDC's website and more than 1.2 million impressions. And most importantly, has generated 4 new quality leads that we can work on to bring to Hillsborough County. All right, that was a record-setting briefing right there.
You're not kidding.
Any questions?
Well, for starters, we certainly appreciate your brevity, and Craig, you and your team are doing a fantastic job.
Thanks.
And I certainly enjoyed the mission to London, and I know you got some others coming up. But
Yep.
just keep up the great work. I don't see anyone else there in the queue, but Thanks for the update. Appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you. And again, we always appreciate your partnership and support in economic development. And let me be the first to wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Bonnie, next item.
Thank you. The next certain item is item B1. This is to accept the library materials management audit, and Melinda will take us through this item.
All right, I'm going to be quicker than Craig. I'm Melinda Ginzarli, County Internal Auditor, and I'm here today to request the board to accept the Library Materials Management Audit Report 2025-20. The audit's objective was to determine the maturity of the library materials management activities, and it was conducted in conformance with the global internal audit standards. Before today's meeting, I did brief the commissioners on the audit report's contents. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have before requesting the board to accept the audit report.
All right, thank you. I don't see anyone in the queue.
Move to accept the report.
Second.
Got a motion to accept the report by Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Ostel. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thanks, Melinda. Next item.
Thank you, and we can move to the regular agenda now. The first item is item B2. This is to approve a mobility fee alternative satisfaction agreement for intersection improvements, and Adam will take us through this item as well.
Morning, Adam.
Speedily, I'm sure.
Yes. Good morning, Adam Gormley, Development Services Department. Item B2 is requesting the board approval of a mobility fee alternative satisfaction agreement and a land conveyance agreement. These are in connection with the proposed realignment of Old Big Bend Road between Bullfrog Creek and Lincoln Drive in Riverview. The board gave us direction on August 20th to draft these agreements, and we have been working for some time on a group of developers who are parties to the agreement. The mobility fee agreement will provide for the construction of the realigned Old Big Bend Road and associated intersection improvements, which will enhance both roadway capacity and connectivity in the area, as well as cure a current operational challenge. The cost of this road improvement will be borne by the participating developers, and 70% of the cost of the improvement and right-of-way will be credited against those developers' mobility fee obligations. So the 30% difference is the capacity that those developments will consume for essentially site access purposes. That provides for the project to be completed by July 1 of 2029, and again, there's no county funds being directly paid towards this project. The land conveyance agreement is associated with this realignment. The proposed realignment of Old Big Bend Road would propose to go on property that's county property, currently within parks inventory. A significant portion of that is within the floodplain. The use of this property will be for roadway construction, stormwater attenuation for the road project itself, and floodplain compensation. To compensate parks for this use of the land, the one participating developer, Camden Development, will convey on an acre-per-acre basis a park replacement property, same size as being used for the project. Will also provide easement access and ultimately improved vehicular access to the site. I am available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Wolstel?
I just wanted to say thank you. I've been asking for these and any best practices so we can hopefully get more of them in future developments. I would appreciate knowing them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Myers?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion approved. Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Wolstel. Don't see anyone else in the queue. Please record your vote.
And refresh.
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, as well.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. Next item.
Thank you. The next item is item B3. This is to adopt a resolution regarding $250,000 in funding for Faith Action Ministry Alliance, and this is on the regular agenda because this is a capital project.
Good morning.
Good morning, Board. This is John Muller, Director for Facilities Management and Real Estate Services. If I could have the slide up, please. Today, we are bringing forward a $250,000 funding agreement with Faith Action Ministry Alliance, or FAMA. We have here somewhere, I believe, Gina Cox, the project manager, with us today, if she's still here, representing FAMA to express their appreciation of your consideration of this agenda item. As most of you know who have visited, FAMA is located in the Grant Park area and has been operating on the grounds of the New Testament Worship Center since 2014. And they do have a formal lease secured as of August 2025. FAMA provides a Grant Park Christian Academy programming which meets the growing needs in that community. And they currently serve over 60 children from that community. So FAMA recently purchased a 3,200 square foot modular classroom, which was under a 2024 board-approved funding agreement with the Social Services Department. In order to ensure the modular is operational, this agreement will fund the remainder of the site work and the other components with this installation. This agreement also provides for improvements to the adjacent parcels they own for sports programming. Please note we are requesting an exception to the policy that the funds be used for previous work completed. FAMA did incur just over $56,000 to prepare the site and anchor the modular, as well as put the stairs and utilities and fire prevention. So they got the asset and they secured the asset. While the timing wasn't favorable, if you put the two together, this is all one big project. When completed with this agreement, FAMA can accommodate an additional 60 plus or minus children for educational, after school and sports programming. And as Bonnie mentioned, the item is being presented as regular, consistent with the board policy for outside agency funding requests. We're here for any questions.
Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, thank you so much, John. That was awesome. I really can't say enough about this organization, FAMA. They really are making such a change and a difference for good in our community. I mean, I could spend hours telling you about all the awesome things that they do, from, the children that they've helped, that schools have given up on and didn't want anything to do with them anymore. But they have taken them in, changed their lives, and these students become honor students and really making a difference in their individual lives, but also going back into their families, and such a difference that they make in so many different areas in our community. But I would like to make a move for approval, and it's an awesome organization. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve B3 by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, my next item.
Thank you. The next item is John Muller's as well. This is to proceed with advertising for the request for proposal for a new equestrian facility. This is item B4.
So if you can go ahead and put the presentation up. Good morning, Commissioners. Again, for the record, John Muller, Director for Facilities Management and Real Estate Services, and Forrest Tuberville is also here with me. Today we are requesting authorization to advertise the RFP for construction of a new equestrian facility at the Northwest Equestrian Park. As you may recall, the board reviewed the draft scope back in September, and we asked and you approved us to conduct community and stakeholder outreach before bringing back any final recommended changes. So since then, just to report back, we've held 2 in-person community engagements along with a virtual option in between those, and met twice with the Bacchus Horses for Handicapped nonprofit leadership. The feedback we heard centered mostly on three things. One, we expected from the community, what could happen to the Bacchus site in the future, how the new facility might affect the public trails at the new park, that came from a different equestrian community, and whether relocating the program would create additional traffic. So we made several updates to the RFP to address this concern. First, the current Bacchus property will carry a deed restriction if it conveys in the future to no more than 4 single-family homes. No multifamily, commercial, or industrial uses would be allowed. That's consistent with what we heard from the public. And frankly, we expected that because that's the highest and best use for that property is call it estate homes. Second, we clarified that if any public trails at the Northwest Equestrian Park were impacted during construction, we believe it'd be minimal and the county could easily replace or reroute them to maintain connectivity. And third, with respect to traffic, staff will just note that the current BEC program, the nonprofit, serves an estimated 161 participants who really travel from all directions today, and relocating the program approximately 2 miles north was not expected to generate a meaningful additional traffic. I'll note also that the RFP requests that any needed traffic-related improvements near the new entry would remain the responsibility of the proposer. We also made a few refinements based on the requests from the nonprofit. We gave and added, they need some more storage space, so we added about 700 square feet for them. And we asked for a small on-site security quarters. Items like furniture, AV, security cameras, we really removed those. They're more appropriately handled 3 or 4 years now by the county. Because we added the security quarters, we figured that would be an appropriate trade-off. With those updates, the RFP is now ready to move forward. If the board approves today, we'll advertise the solicitation, and we'll return again with the qualifying proposals once evaluations are complete, and if appropriate, ask you for permission to negotiate. Here for any questions.
All right, thanks, John. Again, as we stated last time, this is going to be a win-win, I think, both for the Bacchus clients as well as the county from a financial position, from a fact it'll increase programming, they'll have access to the trail. We're going to ensure a seamless transition. So our staff performed the outreach that we asked them to do, and today just simply is advertising the RFP. So I fully support it, and if we can get a motion.
I'll move approval.
Get a motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Miller. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Bonnie.
Thank you. We can move now to the Commissioners section, and the first one is item F1, which is Commissioner Cameron Cepeda's item to change the scope for $20,000, allocation to the Tampa Bay Community Network, which is already in the budget.
Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes. So I would like to make a motion to approve change in scope for the $20,000 allocation to Tampa Bay Community Network, which is included in the adopted FY26 nonprofit budget. The originally identified scope was to use the funding to add additional space to TBCN's video production training facilities. TBCN proposes to revise the scope to expand its video production, digital media training schedule by using the $20,000 of funding to support instructors, materials, and production resources necessary for residents to complete certification level training. The funding of $20,000 is currently included in the FY26 budget, and no additional funds are required. A funding agreement with TBCN will be placed on a future board agenda.
Second.
Thank you.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote.
Chair Hagan.
It's pressed. Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, next item.
Thank you. The next two items are Commissioner Myers' items F2 and F3 regarding two sponsorships.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to approve Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated for their 2026 biennial boule. Other funds were approved and adopted in the FY26 budget.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote. Yes.
Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, move to approve FAMULI Incorporated Be Out Day in 2026 for $5,000. These funds were adopted in our FY26 budget.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote. Yes. Anybody? Next item.
Thank you. The last commissioner item is Commissioner Wussel's item F4, regarding directing the county attorney to challenge the court regarding the Live Local Act.
Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you. And Ms. Mandel, if you want to go ahead and just make your way up. Today is obviously not about litigating the litigation or strategy, but after hearing my growing frustration, Ms. Mandel and I have had a conversation, and she believes, and I'll have her confirm, that there is a legitimate path. Of course, as we've seen, you can't predict the outcome of the judiciary. But can we just confirm, Ms. Mandel, the motion on the floor today is to challenge to the court the constitutionality of the Live Local Act at the Florida Legislature. Can we confirm that we believe that there is legitimate course of action to protect the county against that law?
And yes, as we've discussed, there is certainly a legitimate course of action, a cognizable case that can be brought that was very legally, is that a cognizable case that could be brought that we could walk into court and meet all of our ethical obligations. Obviously, I can never predict that we're going to prevail in any piece of litigation, because as it goes up the ladder, you face whatever is in front of you. But I would agree with that statement that you've made.
And the department possesses the resources to handle it internally, correct?
We would be able to handle something like that internally.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, this is probably no surprise to any of you at this point. I'll quote former Commissioner Michael Owen 2 years ago now, I think, sitting in the current District 4's exact chair with a group full of land use attorneys and developers, and I'll quote him and saying, "I'm getting sick and tired of these developers threatening us with Live Local Act." Well, that was 2 years ago, and now I'm sick and tired of it. It's been very patient. I've been promised fixes. This year, of course, their fix was to specifically target the thoughtful protections that Commissioner Hagan and I put in, which has opened the door to an unknown floodgate. I believe right now you see them growing every month. I believe that they're just testing the waters. I'm told that we're not going to get a fix this year either, that we need to wait until 2027. I don't believe that Hillsborough County residents can wait 18 months for potentially 50, 100. I don't know. If you go look at District 4's maps of the amount of PDs that are sitting there, as well as District 2, it's just going to be an unsurmountable amount of copy and paste approvals that we allegedly would be illegal to intervene in. I believe that for those variety of reasons, of the many developments that have popped up, the Apollo Beach, the two in Apollo Beach, the one I think should be the most egregious to this board is that in a bipartisan vote with Commissioner Cohen and I leading the charge, for a variety of competent, legal, substantial reasons, we denied a project which is now, intentionally to spite us, going to be Live Local. I think that that is outrageously disrespectful, not only to the board, but more importantly to the residents of Hillsborough County. My motion on the floor today, and I would say that before I make the motion, I've heard that, well, we don't know how this will affect appropriations. Well, I know how decades of tax-abated unknown amounts of properties would affect us in the long term, much more than 1 year of the legislature potentially throwing a fit about appropriations that we ask for. And that's just not something that I can stand by and allow to happen to this community. If they would have left PDs alone, I probably wouldn't have even brought this. Frankly, if they would have just said that this applies to municipalities with a certain amount of population, I wouldn't have said anything. But for the unincorporated and rural areas of Hillsborough County, they're targeting those. Commissioner Meyer should probably be the most offended, because in reality, her district needs these the most, but they're not doing those hard projects. They're going all the way out into the farmland because the property's cheaper and there is no public transit or jobs for those folks to ever improve their lives out there. So for those reasons, Mr. Chair, I motion to direct the county attorney to challenge to the courts to determine the constitutionality of Live Local Act or any other Florida statute violations it may impose. Thank you.
Got a motion by Commissioner Woelstel, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, did you want to speak? No. No? Okay. And I'll just say I support the motion, and for me the issue is symptomatic of a much broader issue with the legislature and their propensity to ignore home rule and usurp local government's responsibilities. I've always believed that a core conservative philosophy was the devolution of power from the federal level to the state level to local governments and communities. And yet, the Republican legislature continues to make decisions that are contrary to this. So, Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you. I just want to say I agree. I'm happy to support this, and I think it's important that we support it in a bipartisan way, because the fact of the matter is this is completely eviscerating local control of land use and zoning, and we sit here month after month and essentially make decisions with a gun against our temple. And at some point, the community is going to say enough, and we're the ones that reflect their views. So I think in doing this, you're saying enough is enough, and I'm happy to sign on.
Commissioner Bowles?
Just out of curiosity, will we be joining in concert with any other litigants across the state, or are we just glomming on, or are we doing our own path?
So we have had that conversation, and I don't know if it needed to be in the motion, but obviously we should empower the county attorney's office to allow any other jurisdiction, especially those that don't have near the resources that the Hillsborough County attorney's office does, to conjoin and support this lawsuit if they so choose. Does that need to be said or on the motion?
I'd make that as a friendly amendment.
We can just
Why don't
amend
we
the
add
motion.
that in as an amendment? so
Sure.
that we can-
I accept the friendly amendment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So we got a motion by Commissioner Wostel and second by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. I don't see anyone else in the queue. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0. Also, for the record, item F3, motion carried 7-0.
Okay. Bonnie?
Okay, moving along. The next item is item G1. This is a staff report regarding the historic Mosley Homestead Renovation Preservation Project, and John Mueller will take us through this item.
That's it.
Yep.
I was going to say good afternoon, but we're moving along. Good morning, Commissioners. John Mueller, Director of Facilities Management and Real Estate Services. Today's report is on the historic Mosley Homestead, a site just under 15 acres, located right along Brandon Boulevard. The current site dates back to 1886 and includes the main building, or the nest, along with several outbuildings. I do want to note this property was conveyed to the Timberley Trust nonprofit from Julia Mosley's estate. And as such, they were entrusted with a 140-page preservation and conservation covenants established to preserve the site. So there's a lot on this slide, but I've deliberately put a line through the middle of this to highlight that this nonprofit funding, which started back in 2017-18, has a dual mission. Up on the top, you'll see there's preservations and renovations, and then down below, you'll see capital renovations and improvements. So look at the preservation work. This is always continued and will continue. You've heard from some of the nonprofit members, Mark and Lori, that we work with closely through the years on this, is that it's been methodical, deliberate, in line. So the county and state to date, if you add what they've contributed, $350,000 in public funds, that was immediate. There were some urgent repairs that needed to be addressed. It did take 5 years to spend that money. The property is, of course, fragile, and work must be done to ensure all historic compliance. The trust has asked for another $250,000 of county funds to match $250,000 in state funds. So that's another $500,000 in public funding. In addition, they have received a $25,000 funding amount this budget year to renovate one of the outbuildings. Combined, that's a total public investment to date in just preservation to $875,000. So we really await two items from the trust: an updated business plan and a plan for visitation. And Mark Proctor spoke to that. As the reason for that is, as you start to near $1 million, and under the board policy, of course, we wanted to make sure the public benefit was there. And that was really, for this site, visitation, again, complying with a 140-page covenant not to destroy the site. We expect to have those items, or actually I'm going to ask, I know the board members are here, we're going to require those two items. Anything on the preservation, they're close, but we want those two items by the end of January so we can move this along. I'll note last that if you use an average spend of $50K or even go as high as $75K a year, This funding will last them several years. Keep in mind that this is an all-volunteer board. There is, as of today, no full-time staff. So again, there remains, beyond what I just stated, another $350,000 that remains unused. So let's go down to the lower half of the slide. So this is the construction of a community center, and this is really the portion that has not developed. And again, their board spoke to it as well. I mentioned the covenants, which include visitation by small group by reservation, preventing overuse, maintaining the landscape as is. So when we initially got this, the community center with there was an initial 3-member Timberley Trust board, we realized that the operator, who would have been the History Center, would have been $120K cost annually. The county started to look at the risk of substantial funds being invested for a community center. At this time, the trust board expanded to 10 members who came with different opinions. That's their board. I believe all parties at that point then recognized the idea of a community center to help support the site financially was an approach that would trigger too much change, too much damage, and this funding remains unused. So of the total amount of, if you add this year's appropriation of $1.675 million allocated to date, approximately $250 or $246K to be exact has been spent. For those who have visited the site or have not, here are some photos, just some brief photos. You see the main building up there, and gives you a sense of one of the outbuildings there below that. So I mentioned, where do we stand with that preservation funding? So in the past few months, Mark and his team have secured a plan for visitation with the neighboring restaurant Portillo's. We saw that as fantastic. That was one of the first things we thought as well. Portillo's allows the trust to host their visiting groups and provides parking and restrooms. This plan aligns with the trust's goals and preservation, but can still provide public access for tours. As I mentioned, we expect the trust to complete their submittals next month on this to move their preservation along. So with regard to the funding of a community center, Lori mentioned this in her public comment. The trust is proposing a change in scope. Their preference would be, in place of a community center, to add 2 low-impact structures, an eco center and a creative studio. These would be staffed by volunteers, so there would be no additional ongoing cost. They do also need a vehicle just to complete their business plan so that they can have ADA access without creating paths and walks throughout that site. So next steps for your consideration. As I've mentioned, preservation work continues at the pace at which they can conduct. I do note, and I've said this to them a few times, we encourage them to consider and prioritize improving the resiliency of the site in case of a disaster. It is a fragile site, and you want to be sure, knock on wood, if an event happens, that you're there to have a plan to prevent damage. With regards to the capital funding, while the trust has requested additional time, 6 months, our recommendation would be to expedite that to approximately 3 months. I would say the end of March, so we have time to evaluate as well too. We would ask the trust, and I know they're here, so I'll repeat this to them at a later date, but I would provide all details of the proposed change in scope, bids and quotes for the work, and conduct pre-permitting meetings with the County Development Services Department. And we're happy to assist them to arrange that, because they really need to determine what restrictive covenants, which they as a board would need to change formally for any change in project scope. Finally, I'll mention that on one of the previous slides, we encouraged the trust to use the county's Historical Preservation Challenge grant program. And they did do that successfully for a total of $12,600. Long term, we encourage the trust to increase public awareness and fundraise. The trust in the long term has the option to also use that program. It allows them to do smaller grants with a match that they can pace with their all-volunteer staff. As their own comments, wrote a few down: correctly, not quickly, deliberately, and thorough. So again, just to give you a flavor where we think this was long-term. Available for any questions.
What's the pleasure of the board? I'm sorry, Commissioner Myers?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you for the overview, John. I'm going to move to approve for the organization to submit us a 90-day plan by March 31st, 2026.
We have a motion by Commissioner Myers, a second by Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Bowles, you recognize?
Thank you. Thank you, John. With the slight change, I understand maybe some of the, I'll call, you said urgency. Will we be able to kind of help them with that to the degree that we're capable and is possible?
Yeah, so I spoke to Mark last night. I just wanted to make sure he was aware that we're gonna, and quite frankly, Mark and I probably have talked every week. It's not our first time. We've known each other for a few years now on this. We've been helping them as we can. We don't want to interfere, and we don't want to run their operation. But we're certainly there with all the nonprofits, whether it was FAMA today or the other ones, to guide them. I think we can help facilitate and drill them in, but I do want to acknowledge Mark, Lori, and Amy, who's not here. Those three are the core of that nonprofit, and when we ask them for something, I know they'll diligently apply. But I think part of this process is saying, okay, it's time. It's been years, but they do have, I think, and I heard that this morning in their comments, they have their vision directed. There's no wavering. This is what they're going to do, and that's probably half of the issue with getting to this point.
Totally get that, and to the degree guide, and that's what I was going with, not necessarily tell them, but to guide and facilitate. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Myers, a second by Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have one item that was pulled from consent, which is item A5. We'll take that before we do future items, if that's okay?
Yep, sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, very good. This is to approve and execute the local housing funding agreement for the replacement of the electrical infrastructure for the Regency Cove development, and Cheryl Howell will go through this item.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner. Cheryl Howell, Assistant County Administrator, Community Impact. And I'm here this morning to present to you item A5 for the local housing fund agreement with Regency Cove Electrical Infrastructure Project. So just to kind of give you a brief overview, and I know that you heard a lot of speakers this morning. This request is for approval of $3,764,341. And it's really to help 431 seniors preserve their home. This is deemed an infrastructure project, but in actuality, there are three partners in this. There's the HOA, there's TICO that put money into it, and then the county. The county's money would actually cover the cost to from the home to the public infrastructure, or the TICO infrastructure, right? So it's not covering any costs that TICO would have normally covered, or that the HOA would have normally covered. Now, prior to getting to this project, I want you to know that the staff during our post-hurricane went from University area to Tiny Country area to Forest Hills area to South County, Plant City, Valrico. They were out there in the community, and so we worked with the community, responding to calls that came in through the EOC, responding to news articles that came out, or from reporters, or calls that came into the commissioner's office. A part of our staff was still serving in the shelters, and some of them still serving on pods, but the ones that weren't doing that was out in the community working 12 to 14 hours a day, trying to reach and connect with the needs of the people. In some of the communities that we went to in the south part of the county was Bedrock River Haven. Shell Point MHC. It was a couple of mobile home parks right off of Shell Point in Ruskin that was just covered, right? And so I went out myself and I went to those communities, spoke to the people, saw the damage that was occurring. We assess things from a disaster response perspective. We looked at the amount of damage to the home, the infrastructure laws, the coordination with development services to see if this home was rebuildable, FEMA laws that were in place as well that really impacted how you could move forward. So even though some of the projects we would have loved to move forward with, we weren't able to because FEMA said, no, you can't rebuild, you're not able to do that. So, and we also evaluated repair versus replaceability, the feasibility of a project coming in. Some of those projects were, we would have had to do elevation on those projects. And the cost of elevation was 400% greater than the value of the property. So some of them were not cost feasible. And it impacted broader issues as well, the national insurance programs, really being compliant with many of the things as a county that we have to be compliant with. So some of the key considerations that we looked at in this particular project was that this was a nonprofit community. And so there was indicators there that they had a segment of the population that the funds were targeted to serve. So even though we could go up to 120% median family income, when you start looking at the types of assessments, most of the families that fall into that income category don't have $10,000 or $12,000 sitting around saying, I can pay for this assessment. They are living on the edge. The other things that we looked at was the type of impact that the county could have. 431 households for seniors, preserving that affordable housing. This was not a project that had current county investment. This was not a project that ever received any subsidy. And chances are, these individuals were not individuals. These were hardworking individuals now in their retirement state who needed help, right? Probably for the first time in their life. And so just for funding context, the local housing fund it comes from countywide funding, and it's designed to serve the entire county. So whether they live within the municipalities or outside of the municipalities. And this right here really, this project is to prevent long-term displacement of elderly people who, for the most part, can't go out and get second jobs. They can't increase their income. We did look at funding opportunities for the city of Tampa to see if they had programs that were applicable. They did not have programs that were applicable or that the residents could apply to. And so we coordinated with the county attorney's office, with TICO, with Regency Cove, the nonprofit leadership there. We had countless calls with the residents, worked very, very closely with them. And as I said, any project that we work on is subject to approval by the Board of County Commissioners. So we're not out in the community making commitments on behalf of the board. We simply say, these are projects that we work on. We bring these what we want to say well-deserved projects to the board for your approval. And today, I just want to request approval of Agenda Item A5 to authorize the local housing funding agreement with Regency Cove for the preservation of 431 disaster-impacted households.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioner Westel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I know you pulled this, and it would be easier if I heard your concerns first. So I'll just say a couple of things. The Regency Cove community wouldn't even know this, but I actually myself spent a copious amount of time with TICO on the phone, adopting them as my own employees during the storms, and specifically about the troubles that Regency Cove was going through and making sure that their reps were out there quickly. I'd imagine that I'll hear something similar from Commissioner Cohen. One thing that frustrates me on the TPO meetings that I actually took time to go and just take a look at is hearing from, and I'm not surprised to hear, and by the way, good job, I didn't even see this item on the meeting. I'm not surprised to hear that the City of Tampa doesn't have a program to help this community, because City of Tampa sucks, I'm just saying. And I hear constantly from their own representatives that, well, Commissioner Wustel makes these items impacting my city. And so I actually took the time. I actually received 4 times more votes than any of the Tampa City Council at-large members, and 3 times the votes of the City of Tampa mayor for the City of Tampa. And it's disrespectful to the City of Tampa residents to continue to say that the 3 countywides don't represent them. We actually receive significantly, overwhelmingly more support than the City of Tampa elected officials in the election cycles. I understand probably the frustrations that are coming from District 4 is that over the past years and decades, District 4 has absolutely, without a doubt, been significantly underrepresented and funded on many of their needs. There's actually a several-decade-old policy that Jan Platt made, which was to make sure that no funding was allowed to go out into District 4 outside of the urban service area to fix their roads. I mean, that was a motion that was made. You can go and look that up. And what I would say is that it was pointed out that this was countywide, which means that they also did tax. If we feel like there's a project that the Ruskin area, everybody needs to be being treated with the exact same level of urgency and priorities. While I do believe that some underhanded things have happened to the District 4 office, I don't believe for a moment that Commissioner Cohen would have participated in something like that, and this was just probably an opportunity to improve this residence's emergency after the storm. So if there is another community that needs help and we need to make sure that staff's treating them with the same priority, I want to hear about it and make sure that that's happening. I would just say that I do believe that this is a good item. It's a difficult situation, but there's few instances when I believe that the government should actually be spending people's money, and that is in times of natural disaster. And obviously, I know that you are also super sensitive to the senior citizen community, just like I am, and that we want to make sure that everybody in the low income and senior citizen population is helped the best that we can. So I do think that this is a good item. I am not surprised that the City of Tampa didn't have an item to help them. And I'm saying that begrudgingly for many reasons, because I'm tired of hearing that we don't represent the city. Even in the photos today, you see pictures of Jane Castor, and it's like, come on. It's frustrating and tiring. And so anyways, maybe I'll hear what your concerns are and I'll speak again, but I do want to make sure that everybody gets the help that they deserve, including in District 4. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your words, Commissioner Wustel. Let me start out by saying that we have a lot of money that's coming through the CDBG program to relieve different hardships that were created by the hurricanes. And I look forward and promise that when that time comes, I'm going to give every consideration to District 4 and District 3 and District 2 to make sure that everyone across the county is treated fairly. I'm very familiar with this property with Regency Cove because I represented this area on city council for 8 years from 2011 to 2019. And while I wouldn't agree with Commissioner Wustel's characterization of the city of Tampa, what I would say is that I do agree that it's, to my knowledge, they don't have the funding to provide assistance in this type of a program. And thank God we do, because my understanding from staff is that this was really the only community that actually met the very strict guidelines for this type of funding at this time. Now, I know there's some funding left over, so if there are other communities that can qualify, we actually still have money available. But I think in this particular case, the benefits are enormous. This is a community of income-constrained people who otherwise would have their homes put in jeopardy. Many are veterans. I just turned 55 myself, so I look forward to this being an option for me at some point. But notwithstanding that, this is a really special community, and it is a really cohesive place where people take great pride, not just in their own homes, but in the community in general. And the fact that we can help them in this way at this time, I think, is really a heartwarming way to end for the holidays. I do want to make a motion for approval, and I want to just close by saying that I have said all along, I've said this for 6 years, that I don't want anything for District 1 to come at the expense of the other districts. I want all of the districts to be treated fairly, but at the same time, when there's something available for District 1, I want us to get our due as well. And because this is countywide dollars, it is money that was paid in by everybody, including people in the cities. And I think that for that reason, it's a very justifiable expense for the Board of County Commissioners.
Second. Thank you for your comments. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Cohen and a second by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, I just want to say that was a really great report. Thank you very much. And also, so much has already been said here that I agree with, but, you know, with so many elderly there, the handicap and veterans, I mean, I absolutely support this and second your motion. Thank you.
Commissioner Myers, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to echo what Commissioner Cohen has said, because the CDBG DR funds really would come in handy to be shared in all of the districts, and to make sure those districts that, the communities that are underserved, that we put those dollars there. And I know those what the dollars are to be used for, but let us look first to see who was impacted the most, and then help them first. Thank you.
My apologies, Commissioner Bowles.
No
It's hard
worries.
to read the things here on my screen.
Yeah, it's totally okay. And I'll wrap it up. So with that, and this is probably a better question for our county attorney or county administrator, DR funds, once a project's in the hopper, we can't use those funds for that. Is that correct? So for this, we've already got it underway. We can't use those funds.
Right. I would say that would be supplanting, and so.
Right.
Yeah.
But we could have a little Post-it note that says, hey, we used something over here. And if there's a future project that we could kind of use that as maybe an offset that we hadn't anticipated. Does that make sense?
I think we can look at that at the
Yeah.
time.
But that being the
How about
case.
that for a non-answer?
Yeah, but I understand. But the idea is that this is exactly why we got that money. We can't wait for this to happen. We have so many residents being displaced. Absolutely not. So we have to do that now. Absolutely. There's no question about that. But this is exactly what that $700 million is for. And we should be using it for exactly this reason, to help these type of residents. So let's continue to do that. And let's keep an asterisk next to a few things out there. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to get to why I pulled this, and it sort of has shifted for me as I've gone through this. But when this first came to the board in 2024, it was presented as an opportunity to help manufactured housing communities with an emphasis on those in South County. That's how it was presented to me, post-hurricane impacts. At the time, the board even approved extending the eligibility to 120 AMI because we were told it would allow the county to assist more residents, especially in the unincorporated areas. More than a year has passed, and we haven't had a single briefing brought back to the board, and no updates on the funding was available or how they were evaluated or whether the communities originally discussed were still under consideration. Once the department realized that their initial search for this project with a countywide impact was not achievable based on the preset, they should have informed the board. Instead, they went in a different direction. Buried in consent, I felt that's what it was, and I'm entitled to the way I feel when I look at these. 70% of the funds were being spent within the city of Tampa without an explanation of why unincorporated communities were no longer being considered, whether all communities were thoroughly evaluated, what challenges were encountered in the areas originally presented to the board. To me, I felt like it was a bit of a bait and switch. What we were told that this program was going to be used for in November of last year ultimately is not what came back to us. It's important that the project, we didn't know this information. Actually, my motion today was going to be for you to present what you just gave to us, and I felt like that should have been on the table to begin with, because it would have made my decision easy. And so when I spoke to the administrator last night, I said that was all I wanted. I wanted to understand how the decision was made, why it was made, because I have to go back to my constituents who you noted were Bedrock, Shell Point, Hawaiian, Feather Rock. When I went and looked at those communities, there's great need there. So I needed to understand why you didn't choose them, and instead we're choosing a community. I understand that money's tight for everyone, but homes in there are over $400,000. Selling right now, over 400. So you hear a mobile home park, and I think of communities like Shell Point, not ones that have beaches and swimming pools and boat slips.
Yes, ma'am.
So I pulled it because I felt like there was a lack of transparency and full understanding of how the staff arrived at this. That's why I pulled it, and why it differed so significantly from the original intent in 2024. I'm going to support this based on the information that I was given today, but I don't feel that it was an appropriate place for consent, and maybe we need to talk about how those things get there. And I do think that there needs to be proper consideration, because I can read through, and I won't do it because I don't think it's appropriate, but your responses basically responded that my communities in my district were too far gone, that we couldn't help them. That is discouraging for me. So we have, sorry, Commissioner Worcester, you're recognized.
Well, I did want to hear what you have to say, and yeah, I mean, I do vaguely remember the emphasis on South County discussion. So is there any added context, I mean, about why that moved?
I can add a little bit of context. So initially, post-storm, when we were out in the community, there were a lot of mobile homes that we thought that we would mobile home communities that we thought we would be able to assist. Upon evaluation of those communities, we didn't realize that FEMA would not allow the rebuilding on those communities, and that it would impact the national insurance for the national insurance rate for the county. And so upon just getting into the weeds of all of that, we realized that let's say one of the mobile home communities right off of Shell Point that sits right on the water. FEMA was saying, no, you cannot rebuild here, right? Some of the communities, we were looking at elevation for the mobile home, the individual mobile home units, and the cost for those were well over $200,000 for just the elevation, not even factoring in the cost of the mobile home unit itself. So there were some price gouging, some skyrocketing costs, things that were not anticipated. When we initially looked at it, we looked at what the current cost was, right? We looked at what we believe the ability to be able to move forward to do the rebuilding in those communities or replacements in those communities, not really understanding that FEMA really limited us in a lot of cases of being able to assist people that we really wanted to assist. So a lot of emphasis was placed on South County, but we went all over. We went to the university area. We went to the town and country area. We went to the Forest Hills area. So we really were all over the county. A lot of emphasis was placed in the south part of the county because they received a lot of flooding in that area. And so it may take buyouts and some of the other things that could occur that would cost more than any $4 or $5 million to address those things.
I mean, obviously that doesn't give much of a solution though to the District 4 commissioners. So probably adding context to, hey, they're too far gone or whatever the statement was, you know, saying, hey, this is our plan to help these people. We just can't do it with these dollars, would probably be more helpful to understand in the future.
I would agree with you. I mean, there's ways we could have said it better. I was looking at the agenda item. You know, if you take yourself back to November of 2024, when this was happening, it was a bit of chaos, and what we wanted to do, I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that we scrambled and changed our housing ordinance to allow for this program because we knew that so many mobile home parks were in jeopardy, and a lot of the times it was because of the land issue. It's related to that, if you recall. And so we, of course, want to help as many people as possible. And so with the money we have and with the CDBG DR, maybe there's other options. So we're not going to stop. I think I shared with you in our briefings that even though we've had a year where we didn't have any storms just now, we're still doing things that are storm related, and the areas that are still suffering, we're going to do whatever we can. So that's our pledge to you all, to do as much as we can in other places too.
And I do just want to add one thing, that there is one project in the pipeline that is in District 4 that, and I want to say it's probably about a $4 million project. We've not gotten to the finish line with bringing that agreement to the board yet, and so we're hoping to have that to the board within the next month or so, and that's located in Plant City.
Excellent. So in my closing thoughts, I'd like to just point out the fact that this comes down to communication and transparency. If you are having trouble getting the projects that actually needed it in South County because of FEMA or some other obstacle, we're the legislators. We're the ones that, had we known this information, the struggles that we were having, we could go to our counterparts at the state level and at the federal level to help get those that are most in need. And so what I'm struggling with today is, yes, I'm sure they can't write a $10,000 or $15,000 check. Most of us can't. I don't live in a $400,000 plus home. I mean, that was what was so hard for me, is that these folks that are truly, truly just in the worst situations were just overlooked because, well, we can't do a project there, and we were not communicated that information. And that's honestly what I struggle with today. I kind of feel like I've gotten my point across on this. I require a lot of communication. I ask a lot of questions. Anybody I know, as I do my own briefings, we could have probably gotten through a lot of this if I had just said, hey, listen, bring this, because what I wanted was the presentation that you gave today to fully understand.
Yes,
so we have a motion on the floor, I believe by Commissioner, I don't even know where I put it, Commissioner Cohen, a second by Cameron Sipe. Please record your votes on A5.
Motion carried 6-0.
And Madam Vice Chair? Go.
Yes.
Okay. And now we're on to future issues, but before you all leave, this is Christine's last meeting, but we could take future issues first. Anything? Anybody have anything?
Anyone have anything?
Okay. So this is.
Yeah, we do. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So I did want to mention, this is Christine's last board meeting, although she's not gone just yet. And so I wanted to just say what a pleasure it has been working with her. We have been through hurricanes, as we just mentioned. We have been through pandemics together and all that entailed. And so much, and I know she's going to have some extra time between her traveling.
Oh,
so.
yay.
I have a little something for her. I have a new mahjong set for her to have.
Oh, I love
so
it.
she would have a little bit more time in her retirement. So this is just for me.
Commissioner Whistle.
Thanks. I just want to say you really frustrated me, always giving me legal advice that was counter to what I wanted to do. But I really appreciated somebody who, will disagree with me. I think that that's important in everyone's lives, and I wish you well in you and your husband in your retirement, okay?
Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you very much. I also just want to say that it really, truly has been a pleasure to work with you and also to know you for so many years, 35 years at the county attorney's office, almost 9 as the county attorney. And, we don't read your name in the newspaper that often. And that is really a testament to the fact that you have done this job with such discretion and grace. And we have had so many legal victories under your stewardship that have vindicated the work of this board. And so much hard work has gone into that from your office, from you, and it really is truly appreciated. I know that I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to play Mahjong with you when I have some spare time, and I look forward to that.
Thank you. Commissioner Myers.
What should I say to my elevator friend? Many, many years ago, we never worked together until I became a commissioner, but we always rode up and down the elevator for many, many years and would talk. But Christine, just thank you so much for all of the briefings that you've given me and prepared me for the board meetings and all, just your compassion and your friendliness and kindness shown to all of us. And we get the chance to take care of the board agenda and talk about other things that are going on. And I certainly enjoy just the camaraderie and the friendship, because I always tell staff we're going to take care of business and we're going to have some fun too when we have a meeting. And that's what it's all about when we come together. We never want staff to feel intimidated, and you did not ever show that to one. It was just always friendly and very kind. Commissioner, is there anything else you need? Well, let me know. Give me a call back. I'll be right here to help you. So I wish you the best in your new chapter in your life, and enjoy retirement. But you might also want to think about coming back being a commissioner. Enjoy your retirement.
Commissioner Bowles.
Yes, thank you. Again, for my first year here, you've been wonderful. I appreciate everything you've done to help me and my staff get things done. I did work with your office quite often when I was serving as a staff member, but also as a firefighter, a representative as well. And you guys have always done the best for the community and for staff members here. And again, I just wanted to say I do appreciate your time and your dedication to the county. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Cepeda.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your many years of service here, and I pray you have a long and healthy life and that you enjoy many, many years of your retirement, and have a great time. Thank you.
Well, before I adjourn the meeting, I want to say thank you. And it's funny, she said kind about 3 or 4 times, and I think it is truly who you are. You just have a kind, calming spirit in a room. When we had some heavy lifts, even in my short 16 months that I got to work directly with you. And thank you for your service. I think people forget that we're up here doing the work for the people, and it doesn't pay what you could make in the private sector, and it definitely is really hard work. And I thank you for your years of service and dedication to Hillsborough County.
Thank you. May I make a couple comments?
Yes, please do.
So I am so thankful and appreciative of your kind words, and it's been an absolute honor to serve the citizens of Hillsborough County for so long. And I've had the utmost pleasure working with each of you and with the administration. And I know that this county is in great hands. I'm so proud of the way you all handle issues and run the meetings and take care of our residents. And I'm very confident that as I'll be a citizen, I can know that we're in really good hands. But most of all, I want to thank the outstanding staff in the county attorney's office. You have no idea how good those people are. They are the most professional, dedicated, committed, smart, could do anything they want, and they also choose this service, and any one of them could take a different path. But without them, you could not do this job, and from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank them very much. So thank you.
May God richly bless you. And I think with that, we're adjourned. Thanks. Oh, I can wish everybody a Merry Christmas.